Let's do it. Let's rock and roll. Day 3, everyone. Welcome in. How's this been for you guys? You having fun yet? I sure hope so. I have certainly been having fun and glad to see everyone. All right. I think most of you have figured out how to use the chat box, but as usual, if not, feel free to say hello, let us know where you're joining us from, and see if you're able to figure out how to use that feature over there. Because as we move through the day, that is the place that, as always, you can feel free to type in any questions that you have. If there's something that you want coaching on, or that you would like to cover with us at the end and kind of talk a little bit more about, you can feel free to do that as we move along. What we're going to be talking about is momentum. Today, we're going to be talking about building momentum in our businesses. As you guys know at this point, this entire Shadowside Leadership Project has really been designed to help each and every one of us learn to have more joy, more connection, and also more momentum in our lives, right? So much of the stuff that we deal with, the shame, the fear, the worry, the stress, the different mental and emotional health challenges that we all go through as individuals, many of us that deal with depression, or even, ADHD, or just all the different things that we have in our humanity. It's just nice to have a place to be able to have a little bit of support, to know, what do I do with this stuff, and how do I access some new ways to approach these parts of my humanity in my life, so that I can just have a more enjoyable existence here, right? And not only a more enjoyable existence, but also to be able to be more effective, to do the things we want, right? To create relationships that we love, to create businesses that we love. And so that's what today is all about. We talked about connection on day 1, and we talked about creating more joy in your life yesterday. And so today we're going to be talking about momentum, and how do we actually get moving and start moving ourselves forward a little bit more easily and a little bit more smoothly. And today, what I would like to start with is this idea of using the power of your unconscious mind in order to really propel you forward. And so what I would like to start with, first of all, have you guys ever felt like you're kind of trying to go through life with the emergency brake on? Like, you're just like, there's just something that is holding me back. Jessica said yes, right? Where you're like, and in your head, you're like, this doesn't make sense, right? I coach people on this about weight loss all the time, where they're like, I'm doing everything right? It's like, in my conscious mind, when I look around at my life, it's like, there's no logical reason that I can find why I'm experiencing so much resistance here, right? Why I feel just so blocked up and I can't seem to get there. So this is what I want to talk about today, is why that happens, and how we can, find that emergency brake, if you will, and just release it so that we can go more smoothly, more easily. So that's what we're going to cover first. And then at the end, I'll give us an opportunity to kind of practice a little bit of that if you would like. So first, I want to talk about brushing your teeth. Do you guys know which hand you brush your teeth with? Okay. Your right hand. You can type it in the chat. And if you want to unmute yourself at any point and answer, you can. There's not too many of us here that'll be a problem. So whatever feels easier for you. Right hand, right hand. Okay. So do you know, when you brush your teeth, do you know exactly how you do it? Top first, bottom first, left, right. Yeah. Have you ever noticed how just automatic it is? Yeah, you don't really have to think about it much, do you? Yep, top first, right? So we have a routine, right? And we practice it, and we probably do it the same way every time. Does that sound right? Is that a conscious choice? Amber's shaking her head no. No, probably not. Yeah. Okay. So now I want to ask you, have you ever driven home from work or from the store and not remembered getting there? Okay. I'm seeing some people yes, nod, yes. How does that happen? How do you drive to the store or drive home from the store and you get there and you don't even remember it necessarily, right? Because it's so automated. You turn on the blinker, you go here. You're not thinking about any of that, are you? You're just doing it. You're just moving, right? You're just going. And this is really a beautiful thing in a lot of ways, right? Because there's so much happening in our day, in our world, in our life. If our conscious mind had to keep track of all of that and remember and consciously think about that, we would not be very effective humans, right? We just wouldn't even be able to do it. It would be utterly overwhelming. There would just be too much. It'd be like overloading your computer and it would freeze. And so because of that, we have this system built in. And your unconscious mind takes over, right? Your unconscious mind is designed to receive information and to just run those programs without even thinking about it, right? Okay, we're going to the store. Got it. We know how to do this. And you're not even consciously thinking about many of these things that you're doing. On average, you've got 60,000 thoughts a day. Who knows that? I think a lot of us probably know that, right? We've all heard that. 60,000 thoughts a day, 80% of them are negative, right? Who knew that? We also knew that, right? 60,000 thoughts a day. Those are not conscious thoughts, are they? No way. Here's the other thing. Beyond your thoughts, you also have in this unconscious mind that holds so many of those active thoughts, your unconscious mind also holds a vast vortex, if you will, of memory. Over 100 billion memories. Who knew that? Yeah, people shaking their head no. 100 billion memories stored inside your unconscious mind, along with so many other things. Why does this matter? Type in the chat or unmute yourself either way. Why do you think this matters? To understand that we have this conscious and unconscious mind. And especially, why do you think it matters to realize that the unconscious mind stores so many memories, so many thoughts, and runs so many programs? It matters because these unconscious memories, these unconscious thoughts and beliefs and patterns, behaviors, all that stuff has powerful, powerful impact, doesn't it, in your life? It affects your relationships, your finances. Amber taught us the model yesterday, right? And I love the model for this reason because it explains it so powerfully, right? But the thought piece is just a tiny portion. So for those of you that don't know the model, right? The model says that we've got circumstances in our life, and those circumstances, right? A husband, a situation, amount of money in your bank account, those trigger a thought, right? And that thought creates emotion, right? The thought creates feelings. And whatever that feeling is, anger, love, fear, shame, right? Blah, whatever it might be, that's an official feeling, right? That feeling creates action, right? It drives you to show up in some way, right? Run, hide, fight, flight, freeze, right? And then that's what creates your result. And so when we talk about building momentum towards, I'm going to put down here our dream, our goal, whatever it is that we want in our life, right? That result that we want. It's so important to talk about this, but today I want to talk about more than just our thoughts. Our thoughts are an important piece of it, but this is why that unconscious mind is so important, because it's at work. And you know, who's ever seen Inside Out? Does anybody watch that movie? Yes, I see some hands. Who loves that movie? I love that movie, right? Yeah, Inside Out is an amazing explanation of where I'm about to show you. Because in that movie, what they explain is that this same idea that there are unconscious programs happening, right? So inside this little girl's brain, she's got fear, she's got sadness, joy, anger, right? We've got all these emotions. Kristen says, I make my clients watch it all the time, right? And those emotions are inside her brain. They're at this little control panel, and something happens, and fear's like, here we go. I'm pushing the button. Anger, I'm pushing the panic button. And that panic button, it creates all kinds of effects in our life, right? And so this is what's happening all the time with each and every one of us. And it's actually part of what drove me to want to create this summit, because I had an experience with that recently where I was like, this doesn't make conscious sense. but something was happening underneath there, down in this portion, right? Where I was really triggered and stuff was happening. And so we can sometimes self-sabotage and all this kinds of resistance where we hold ourselves back. And so I want to show you not only why we're holding ourselves back, but how we can begin to release that emergency brake. Okay? So we know why it matters. We know that we have this unconscious mind, 100 billion memories, 60,000 thoughts, all kinds of stuff. We know that it's just like the Inside Out movie. It's clicking buttons, it's pushing triggers, pulling levers. It's inside there doing all kinds of stuff in our life. And we may not want it to, right? Sometimes when it comes to brushing our teeth or going to the grocery store, it can be really helpful, but sometimes it can hold us back. And again, there was so much stuff in there that I didn't even know was happening. Honestly, just like this week, right? When Laura did that meditation with us, something about just going in there and leaving when she talked about leaving the basement, right? Did you guys notice how much emotion that created for me? Why? Something so simple, because it triggered a memory that I didn't even know was in there. And that memory brought up all that emotion, and that memory, fear of being seen, right? All these belief systems that I now realize and I see week by week, month by month as I do this work. I'm like, wow, this is still really holding me back. I'm afraid of being seen. I have fear of being seen, of speaking my truth, fear of rejection, all this kind of stuff. So this is what I want to show you. We're going to think about it this way. And let me know if you guys are able to see okay, if for any reason you can't see this, let me know. So imagine we've been talking about this identity triangle all week, right? So I want you to imagine that you've got this identity triangle here. And on top of this triangle, you have a human. That human is you, right? And you're up here hanging out, right? And you've got this little paddle in the water. You've got this dream, you've got this goal over here, this thing that you want in your life. Who has something in your life that you want? A dream, a goal, something you desire, where you sometimes feel like you're not getting there fast enough. So I want you to notice this guy's up here, the wind's blowing in the direction of his dream. Who's ever ridden a bike and you're like, yeah, the wind's at your back, it feels so good. But what about when you're on a boat or you're on a paddleboard? Who paddleboards? Whew. Right? Feels good. But then you come down here. Oh, baby. Current's going this way. There might be some little currents. And then there's some really big ones. Yeah? Anybody ever notice that? How does that work out for you? How's that going to work? He's got this massive current pushing that direction. What do you think? How's that going to work for him? Is he going to struggle? How's he going to do? Kristen says, it looks like a lot of work, exhausting. Yeah. Anybody relate to this guy? Yeah. So just notice when you're up here working and you've got all this stuff pushing against you. Notice how exhausting that is. Notice how much harder you're having to work. Wondering if the effort's going to work. Yeah, if it's going to be worth it. So as you're paddling, this guy's got this little paddle and he's over here paddling. And I would submit to you that this is what we do, right? We've got all this stuff. And some of us, we've got a lot, right? So this stuff down here, it might be your trauma, right? Maybe you've got neglect. Maybe you grew up in poverty and you've got a lot of money stories and belief systems. Yeah. So many things. Self-doubt, self-judgment, right? All this stuff at work underneath the water, just pushing the other direction. And so what often we do, we don't even realize the profound depth of everything that's happening down here. So what we do is we try to paddle harder, right? Who's tried to paddle harder? Maybe we grab 2 paddles. I just need a second paddle. We're gonna paddle with 2 paddles. I need 2 paddles, right? Yeah. And he's like, well, maybe I need a motor. That's what I'm gonna do. So we try a different funnel. We work harder. We work longer hours. Maybe I need to hire an assistant. That's the trick. I just need to hire an assistant, and I need to get a team, and I need to put a motor on this sucker. And that's what's going to be right. And so we're doing all this to try and work our way towards this goal. But down here, you might as well have a brick wall. Just saying, nope, we ain't moving. The motor burned out. Get another motor. And you're pushing, and it's just the other direction. That motor burned out too. Now you got blisters on your hands, right? You're frustrated, discouraged. Yes? Are we tracking? I'm pitching my paddle and I'm mad crying as I get swept down the river. Yeah. Right? Like you just want to give up. So then what? Here's what I want to show you about this. This up here is your conscious mind. This is the conscious mind. And your conscious mind may very well be aligned with that goal. Right? And we'll say, I'm going to fill this in, right? Your little red identity triangle that we've been talking about all week. Your conscious mind is aligned. I know that I'm worthy. I know intellectually, I know that we're all worthy. I know that I'm capable of doing this. I know I'm a good coach, right? I know that intellectually, but down here, somewhere deep inside, there's a powerful current that says, I'm not good enough, right? That's what happened with me with this program. I uncovered a belief that said, I don't belong. I didn't even know it was in there. I didn't even know it was in there. I had no idea that somewhere inside I was believing that. And that current was powerfully pushing me, holding me back from my dreams, not allowing me to be seen. And I didn't have conscious awareness of it. All of this is going the other direction. I feel that too, Veronica says. Yeah, right. But that's the danger of that's the danger of not being aware of what is down here, which is your unconscious mind. Can you guys read this? Okay.
Yeah, it's super clear. Thank you.
Yeah. So this is the unconscious mind. And there's so much, 90% of your life is being driven, at least, maybe more. At least 90% of your life is being driven by the current of your unconscious mind. The direction, the current of your unconscious mind is what's going to decide where this iceberg is going to go. But we spend 90% of our effort up here working on the conscious mind, analyzing, planning, strategizing, thinking, working, paddling. Does anyone relate to that? Am I just grasping at straws? Yeah, we do that, don't we? So if getting a second paddle is not the answer, what is, right? What's the answer to that exhaustion, that discouragement, all that stuff, that work? What do we do instead? the answer is to come down here. The answer is to come down here and turn the tide on all those things that are holding you back. To erase that and replace it with a current that is now in alignment, working for you and actually bringing you closer to that goal. What comes up for you when you imagine the tide, the current, those arrows being turned in the other direction and allowing the current of that unconscious mind to literally carry you towards your dream, towards your goal? How would that feel? Notice the ease as the resistance of that current is removed and it literally gets turned around in the other direction. Momentum, momentum. Now that paddle is going to do something. Now that motor can amplify the speed with which you reach your goal. Right? It's going to be an ally. But this has to happen first. So how do we do it, right? How do we turn the tide of this unconscious mind? There's a few things that you need to know. And the first, I want to offer you a quick analogy to help you understand this. I want you to imagine that an alien comes down into our planet and he goes to the beach and he's sitting there and he sees this man riding a horse along the beach. He's never seen this before. He's like, what is this strange creature? 6 legs, 2 heads. Seems a little odd. Coming from an alien, I think that's hypocritical, but I don't know. Right? So this alien's looking at this. It looks like one creature, right? Could you understand how he might think that? It's just one entity. But it's not. It's actually 2, isn't it? They're just working together. Your unconscious mind and your conscious mind are just like that. When they're working together, it's beautiful. But here's the thing. The man and the horse, they are 2 separate entities. They eat different food. They speak different languages, don't they? They totally communicate differently. They eat differently. They need different things. They're 2 separate entities. And so this is what I want to invite you to understand, that the language of the unconscious mind is different than the language of the conscious mind. The language of the unconscious mind is different. And so if you want to come down here and start to learn how to harness the power of that horse, if you want to come down here and start to learn how to harness the power of those currents, to direct them and to turn them in the direction of ease and flow towards what you want, you have to learn how to speak the language of the unconscious mind so that you can actually communicate with it. And that's how you turn these arrows around and start creating a powerful current for yourself. So what's your next question? You make sense, Queen. Talk unconscious to me. Okay. All right, let's do it. Let's talk unconscious, because that's the next part, isn't it? How the hell do we learn to speak the language of the unconscious mind? Here's my question. Who hates this and who loves it? Is this too woo? Do you want to learn it? Does that sound interesting to you? Because I'm all about consent up in here. Love it, love it, love it. I want to learn it. Okay, cool. Yes, more woo. Excellent. I love it. It's also annoying as fuck. Right? Isn't that a frustrating feeling? It's like literally whose invisible hand is just against my forehead like this saying, no, you're not going. It's like, let's get it out of the way. Yeah. Yeah. Foreign languages are hard for me. All right. So I'm going to give you a quick overview, just kind of touch a little bit on the language of the unconscious mind so you can sort of see and start to get a grasp of it. And then if you guys want to talk about this more, we can, but I would like to give you an opportunity just to practice what this kind of can feel like. Okay. And so getting more in alignment, because really there's a few key, I'm going to erase a little bit of this so that you guys can see. There's a few key ways that you can begin to learn how to communicate with your unconscious mind, and you can begin to learn how to turn the tide on that current. Okay. So the first one is images. Images are a powerful, powerful tool for communicating with the unconscious mind. Emotion is one of the languages of the unconscious mind, one of several. Music. Who feels this one? Who knows the power of music and how it moves you without even knowing it? How is it that Mozart, there's no words. There's no words in that music, is there? Have you ever seen it move someone to tears? Have you ever sat at a symphony and felt the emotion of that music? Yeah, I always put on Norah Jones when I need to calm down. Yeah. Yeah, taking it to the next level, right? So just notice it's a language. Music is a language. Imagery is a language. Emotion is a language. This goes far beyond just statements. Although statements, yes. The unconscious mind can understand statements, right? Or story. Why is it that story is so effective? Right? There's a reason, right? So that can be a part of it. But you know what else? Movement. Who knows about Tony Robbins up in here? Who knows the shit that Tony Robbins does? Woo, he says, let's get moving, right? Ever go to a Tony Robbins event? He's like, jump, jump, jump. Get it in your body, right? Why? And he's using all of this, right? He's pulling it all together because when we use images and emotion and music and story and movement, we begin communicating with the unconscious mind in deep, deep ways. Powerful, powerful ways. I'm running out of room here, so I'll just, but another one is your somatic senses, right? Noticing that. Touch, smell, sound, taste, right? We talked about music, but there's other things, not even just music. There's a reason that people with PTSD hear a certain sound of a firework and they are triggered as hell. Who knows that? Who's ever seen that happen? Right? I work as a paramedic, and one of my coworkers, the smell of gasoline, he's in pieces. Why? Just a smell. 100 billion memories, y'all. The vast, vast majority of them, I would say 99% unconscious. Who's sold on the power of the unconscious mind right now? Are we here? Are you with me? Let me check in with the chat box. Yeah. Okay. Sarah says I'm sold. So this is what I want to invite you guys into today. Just noticing this, right? First, just noticing that you do have a structure, a setup, right? It's like, the man and the horse. You're working together, these things, but they're separate entities. And the way that you feed your unconscious mind, the way that you change the tide of this is going to be different, and you have to learn to speak that language. And it's going to be different for each and every one of you. When I work with my clients and I do this work with them, I also do energy work and some things like that. I incorporate it all together, but I just want you to notice it's individualized, right? The way that we speak that language for one client is different from another because we're all unique. And so whatever your goal is, whatever your dream is in your life, I just want to first say that it matters. Your dream matters. It's your destiny. It's what you're here to do. There's a reason it's not going to go away. It's important. There's a reason that you feel so frustrated when you're blocked from getting to it. Who knows that frustration? It's like, oh, it's like we talked about yesterday. When we're blocked from getting to that goal, to that dream, it's so frustrating because I will submit to you, we're coming back to that little red triangle, my friends, that this is the expression, your dream is the expression of your highest calling. It's the expression of who you are at the deepest level, who you are here to become. That dream is inside you for a reason, and it's not going anywhere because this is what we're being called to. We're always being called to evolve and to get to that next level. And so until you get there, you're going to feel that. And so the goal is to bring this into more alignment over here, right? To get where we are and to become in alignment with that. And so that's what I would like to teach you all to do. If you guys want to do that work with me more, let me know. And in the meantime, I know I'm at my time, so we can either follow up later if you guys would like to do a brief meditation and kind of practice experiencing what some of that could be like. I'm happy to do that with you. Otherwise, I want to open up to questions and see where you guys want to go from here. Would you guys like to practice? You guys want to take a few extra minutes? We've been ending pretty early.
Yeah, I think we have time actually.
Okay.
If you feel good about it and folks are down,
Yeah.
I think we can do it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm totally down. We've been ending about 20 minutes early. Veronica says, yes, please. Great. I just wanted to check in. That's all. I didn't want to assume and take up anybody else's time. So, all right. Well, let's do a little work together. So, what I'm going to do with you today is I'm going to give you an opportunity to experience what it can feel like to kind of put the paddle down for a second and just start to access some of the wisdom that's inside of you in that unconscious mind, and some of the wisdom that's inside of you kind of as you imagine what it would be like to step into that identity and into the truth of who you really want to be. So this is what I'm going to invite you to do. This is one of my favorite momentum building exercises. I invite you all to close your eyes if that feels accessible to you. And for any of you at any point, if that doesn't feel accessible, you can just listen, rest your eyes. If you want to journal, you can feel free to make this your own, okay? What I want to invite you to do is come into your body with your eyes closed and take some breaths. Take a deep breath in and blow it out. And as you breathe, I want to invite you to just let your body just relax into the seat. This is an exercise in letting go. We're putting down the paddle. We're turning off the analyzer. We're completely letting go of all effort. As you breathe, come into your body, noticing just that sensation of pressure where your body's meeting the seat underneath you. Noticing the temperature of the air on your skin. The weight of your arms hanging at your side. As you breathe, I want to invite you to just let yourself settle. Let yourself settle into this space. As you settle, relaxing into the space, I want you to notice that you're safe. You're safe. And from this space, I want to invite you now to cast your mind into the past. And I want you to go find yourself at rock bottom. Go find yourself at rock bottom. Which one does your mind take you to? Where does your mind travel? And as you go find yourself at rock bottom, I want to invite you to notice, just watch her. What is she wearing? Where is she living? And as you watch her, I just want you to notice for a moment, what is she thinking at rock bottom? What is that person, as you watch her from this place of safety, as you observe, watching her go through her day, where she might be sleeping or sitting? What is she believing about herself at rock bottom? What is she believing about life? About what's possible? And as you sit with her, as you watch her, I want to invite you to go sit next to her. Just go sit down next to her. What does she need to know? Above all else, what is the one thing that she needs to know in that moment? What does she need to believe with all her heart? And I want to invite you now, as you sit with her there, as you see her face, her life, her heart, what she's thinking, what she's believing, as your heart fills with love, I want to invite you to just wrap your arms around her and give her the biggest hug, filled with warmth. And I want to invite you to just whisper inside her ear, just so you know, you made it. Just so you know, you made it, kid. I want you to take another breath. And I want you to travel back again, coming into this present moment, grounding yourself again inside your body, noticing that seat underneath you, supporting you, noticing your arms hanging at your side, being very present in this moment, in this body of yours. And as you breathe yet again, I want to invite you now to cast your mind into the future. Into the future. And I want to invite you now to cast your mind into the future and to find that version of you that is standing exactly where you want to be. I invite you to go find that version of yourself in the future that's living the life that you want to live, that is exactly the person that you want to be. The one that's there. She has arrived. She has the friendship, the love, the confidence, the courage. She knows how to forgive herself. She has forgiven herself completely. She has learned how to love herself fully. She knows the truth of who she really is. She has deep and meaningful friendships, even if it's just one, even if it's just with herself. She has accomplished the goal. Whatever that goal is that's in your heart, go and find the version of you that has arrived, that's done it. She is the person you dream of being. Can you see her? You see what she's wearing, where she lives, how tall she stands. Notice, what does she believe about life? What does she believe about what's possible? What does she believe about herself? And I want to invite you now to go sit next to her. Go sit down next to her. And I want you to just feel in your body the power of her spirit. Feel in your body the admiration, the love, the joy, the appreciation. The power of who she is. And as you sit down next to her, I want to invite you to just simply ask her, what is the one thing that I need to know right now? What is the one thing that I need to know above all else? What is it that I need to believe? What's my next step? What's my next step? What do I need to do in order to become you? How do I get there from here? I invite you just to place your hand on your heart. Whatever wisdom she imparted, just to say thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. And in this moment, I want to invite you now to take another breath, deep breath, as you breathe in all the wisdom, all the love, all the support that she has for you. And as you come back again into this present space, into this current moment, feeling again the chair underneath you, supporting you, feeling the breath inside your lungs. To just notice for a moment that that version of you, that she is already inside you, that this is the truth of who you really are. This is the truth of who you really are. And to notice for a moment what that felt like for the resistance to melt away, for the truth and the wisdom to come flowing so easily. To notice for a moment that this is who you have always been, even at your rock bottom. This truth, this identity has always been inside you. And now, this is your moment of great unfolding. This is your time to let go of the resistance, to put down the paddle, and to allow the truth of who you are to explode out of your heart. Taking another deep breath in. Embodying that wisdom, internalizing that wisdom, saying yes to that path. And then when you're ready, come back into the space. How was that for you all? Anyone want to unmute themselves and let me know how that went for you? Anybody uncover anything? Beautiful. Was that helpful at all? Was it difficult? Gretchen says, I discovered a new rock bottom that I hadn't considered. Yeah, from last time. Isn't that so interesting, Gretchen? Every time we do that, it's like, again, it's like kind of coming back to the same idea, right? 100 billion memories. Like there's just so much to access, you know? So, all right. Dory says, it went pretty dark for me. Dory, what about, and you don't have to share if you don't want to, but what about the other side? Was it helpful for you, or did it feel just difficult? I'm just curious. There's no right or wrong answer. You've taken me to places I've never been. Yeah. Brought up the stuff. Okay, good.
Yeah, sorry, I had to tell my husband to be quiet. He was playing video games.
You're okay.
So he wouldn't interrupt us. Yeah, it was just rough. Like when I went to my future self, I was I was like pretty mean to her.
Mm,
Yeah,
interesting.
we had to have some words. So
Yeah.
yeah, it brought up the way I really feel about myself.
Yeah.
And it makes me so frustrated because it's like I know logically that I'm not the Dory I'm going to be in 5 years. I
Mm-hmm.
just am the one that I am right now, and I've accepted as it is, and I look forward to that person or whatever. But I just get so bitter that I'm not there yet,
Mm,
even though I know better and I get
yeah.
all the things, and I pick up my oar and I row the wrong way with those things. So yeah, it went dark.
Yeah.
But it's a good dark. You got to go in the darkness and root those out, right?
Yeah, totally. Yeah. super helpful to notice, right? Like again, I think sometimes we put expectations on these kinds of exercises, like, oh, it's supposed to be this, amazing thing. And there's not any of that, right? Like this is just an opportunity to really explore, like you said, wow, there's some bitterness there. Like that's such amazing information, right? Kristen said so relatable, Dory. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. So that's just an amazing thing to notice, right? And then to just know like, and again, if this is something that you guys want to work with more, we can, but just what are what does that mean for me? Like when I notice like that bitterness that I have, um, it might be a pretty neat opportunity for you to just even explore that a little bit deeper, right? Like again,
Yeah, big time.
yeah, what do I want to do with this bitterness? Like, do I know where this is coming from? And
Yeah.
what if that bitterness could just be okay for a minute, right? Kind of like we talked about yesterday. What if we could practice just allowing that to not be wrong either, right? What if
Yeah.
it's all beautiful, just like Sarah said yesterday, like all of these things are a part of our recipe, right? Veronica said I got exactly the message I needed to hear today. Yeah. So everything is different, right? Everyone's experience is different. And I would invite you, Dory, to just explore what that feels like to notice that maybe nothing's gone wrong.
Thank
Right.
you.
Yeah. I would submit that you also got exactly what you needed, Dory.
Oh, I absolutely did. I had to put down the oar and pick up the shovel.
Yeah,
So
there you go. I love it. I love it. All right, cool. Well, thank you guys for taking those few extra minutes to do that. That's something that you guys can have in your back pocket for whenever you need it. And we'll move on to what's next. And so next up, we have Kristen King. Kristen's amazing. I'll let her introduce herself to you more, but she's here to talk to you guys about the art of imperfection. And let's get moving.
Yay. Thank you so much, Robin. I am really happy that I get to follow Robin's awesome presentation because what I am is an integrative coach for entrepreneurs. And so, like Robin was talking about the conscious mind, the unconscious mind, the body, and how all these pieces fit together. And that's exactly what I work with my clients, because these are all part of your personal ecosystem. And you're not just a brain sitting on top of a meat sack or a meat sack holding up a brain, right? There are all of these parts to you. And what I really want to do is work with all of those pieces and really take a holistic approach, because none of us is just, disembodied body parts. We're all parts of a whole, and we're all interacting all over the place. None of this stuff happens in a vacuum. So I really coach the person who has the business. Like I am a coach for entrepreneurs, but I'm about coaching the person who has the business, not just giving them some kind of blueprint. I do also coach on specific like business techniques and strategies and things, because I've been doing this shit for almost 20 years, but I'm not here to make your business look like my business or your life look like my life. I'm here to help you make it look like yours. And my work in the world is really helping people go from fuck me to fuck yeah. And so I'm hoping that that's part of what we can do today as we talk about embracing this art of imperfection, because that's really what it is. And as I'm talking today, I'm going to drop some links and resources into the chat for you. I'm going to be kind of scanning faces. So if you see me looking around the screen, that's what's going on. I just put a couple links in there for you. So the conversation that we're going to have today is definitely informed by my, almost 20 years of experience in business and coaching and all the stuff that goes along with that. But it's also informed by my own lived experience. And I think it's really relevant to this conversation. So I want to share with you what some of those lived experiences are. I am a neurodivergent person. I have ADHD. I'm self-diagnosed on the autism spectrum. I'm real confident about this one, though, you guys. And there is a lot of evidence demonstrating that that is accurate. So I have some stuff going on where my brain works a little differently from how some of the systems in the world are set up. I am also someone who has chronic health issues. I am a parent to 11-year-old twins. One of my kiddos is transgender. I am someone who, like some of the other folks on the call, came out late in life. I'm bi, and I've been married to a man for going on 20 years. I came out on our 15th anniversary, which was a really fun conversation and real memorable. I'm telling you what. Um, I'm also someone who has a history of trauma, including death of a sibling, pregnancy loss. So there's a lot of stuff that goes into this. I am not just one thing, and neither are you. But we definitely have one thing in common, and I don't have to know you personally to feel as really confident in this one too. And it's that we all have human brains, and those human brains make shit a lot harder than it needs to be, and that is a real momentum killer. And so we're going to talk about that today. There are three closely related patterns that make shit way harder than it needs to be: perfectionism, people pleasing, and bowing to outside pressures. Because of time today, we're just going to talk about one of those momentum killers. We're going to focus on perfectionism, but I have some resources that I'll drop in the chat later if you want to learn more about people pleasing and that outside pressure stuff too. And I want to say you don't have to identify as a perfectionist to experience perfectionism. So if you're like, but Kristen, I'm not a perfectionist, that's fine. Because guess what? Sometimes I'm not either. Sometimes I am, though. And when I am, I prefer the term perfection enthusiast because, frankly, you like what you like. That's okay. It's not actually a problem unless it fucks up your other shit. And I guess I should tell you, I'm pretty sweary. So if you've got little people running around and you want them to learn those words from you, not from me, maybe use two fingers and put those earbuds in just so, you can maintain control over their education on their vocabulary, but we're going to carry on. So anyway, regardless of whether you actually identify as a perfectionist, which is not necessary, we all experience perfectionism sometimes. And when it's happening, we're holding ourselves to unnecessarily high standards. And sometimes those standards are even impossible. It's stuff that we wouldn't even expect from other people. We really only expect it from ourselves. And when we're in this place where perfectionism is happening and it's running behind the scenes, it has us doing things like procrastinating on tasks until we have time to do them right, which often means that we don't do them at all. Because I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes doing it right means I have to clear 12 hours and have an act of God that descends upon me with the wisdom of unicorn tears or some shit. And then things don't get done. Right. So we're procrastinating from this perfectionistic place. And we are trying to put things aside till we can do them the right way. And what's kind of hilarious about that is that that's not even a thing. There's not one right way to do anything. There's infinity right ways to do something. And there's just as many right ways to do it as there are people doing those things. And when you look around the world, most of us are going to see that very logically, but it doesn't necessarily feel like it applies to us. It'll be like, oh, well, that's okay for Robin. That's okay for Kristen. But for me, I got to do it this specific way. Right. And that has us forgetting that that applies to us too. Right. So we'll slam on the brakes until we know we can do things right. Or we might be moving forward, but we've got one foot on the gas and one foot on the brake, and we're pressing them both at the same time. And it's burning out our engine, right? And so nothing kills momentum like yanking the e-brake, like Robin was talking about earlier, or driving down the highway with your foot on the brake. And I see folks are relating to this in the chat. Sarah says, it feels awful when I hold myself to a standard and then I don't meet the standard and then I shut down. Yes, that is exactly the cycle that we get into. And it happens so invisibly and so insidiously that we often don't even notice that we're doing it. And that's why we might do things like we talked about procrastinating. We might also skip awesome opportunities because we tell ourselves we're not ready to do it right. We don't know enough. We're not qualified enough. We don't have enough experience. We're not legit. We're not credible, even though there are people out there with way less skill and way less experience who are taking these opportunities and fucking nailing it. Perfectionism will have us skip the opportunity, even though we could really do it. It'll also have us overcomplicate things because we really want to get them right. So it takes forever to get anything done because we have added a bajillion extra teeny little steps. We leave no stone unturned with every freaking detail. And then by the time we finally finish, we're not only exhausted, but we're also looking at the thing and like our list of all the million little detail-y things we did. And we're like, wait a minute, I might have missed something. I'm not sure it's good enough. So then we go back and we do it again and we add more things to the list just to make sure. And we might repeat that several times. And then we get frustrated and we toss it. And that stuff that we've put so much time and energy and attention into doesn't even meet the world because we've deemed it not good enough before we've even found out. And then sometimes when we finally do let ourselves go for it and we release something into the world, we let it get out there and meet the people who can actually help, then perfectionism has us pick it apart. It has us focus on everything that went wrong. And instead of looking at this gorgeous piece of content, this gorgeous art, this gorgeous conversation, whatever it is that we put out there, we'll focus on the one typo or the one line that just doesn't look quite the way we wanted it to, or how the email went out 5 minutes later than we planned. And then even though we've gotten the thing done, we don't actually get to enjoy any of it. Perfectionism just sucks the joy out of it. And that too stops our momentum. And I'm seeing like so much agreement in the chat here. When writing a post, sometimes I'm like, this could have been 5 posts, just chill. Yes, exactly. It is literally exhausting, Stacy. We tire ourselves out so much. And Amber's saying, yes, I've missed out on so many opportunities because of this. Yes, this is such a common shared experience. And this is what perfectionism does to us. And it doesn't have to be all the time. It doesn't have to be everything. Maybe it's just in some areas and not so much in others. That's okay. But we get to make adjustments in any of the places that it shows up. Because again, when it's happening secretly behind the scenes, it can really slow things down and it makes everything so much more freaking work. And yeah, Sarah's saying it's so fascinating to see where I do have these tendencies, even though I don't identify as a perfectionist. You don't have to have the experience. And we do have this experience. And there's nothing wrong with wanting to get things done right. There's nothing wrong with taking your work seriously and to really enjoying what comes along with doing things in a certain way that feels really good and empowering to you. But when we're doing it on autopilot and it's running behind the scenes, then we just keep repeating the cycle and everything feels impossible. Business feels impossible. Parenting feels impossible. Relationships feel impossible. Leadership feels impossible. Everything feels impossible because we're using up all of our energy trying to get things right. And then we never really get anything done. And it seems like a good idea, right? It feels like the right thing to do to get things correct and take them seriously and do a good job, like a professional who's a real adult. But you already are that. You are already a real adult. None of you is a fictional character. You are all already real adults and you are all already doing these things. And the things in the shadows, the things that you think are wrong with you, the things that you think will stop you from succeeding, the things that you think you need to make up for, that is the shit that pushes you into perfectionism. And it seems like doing things right, like doing them to a high standard, is going to keep us safe. It's going to keep people from knowing how much we actually suck. It's going to keep us from getting in our own way and shooting ourselves in the foot because we won't be making those careless mistakes. All of this stuff, it seems like a good idea. And that's why perfectionism is so insidious and it's such a hard habit to break. And it is a habit. This is a pattern of behavior, a pattern of thinking that we have done over time. Some places we're conscious of it, some places we're not conscious of it. And that's why having this on the heels of Robin's great discussion of the conscious and unconscious is so important, because we don't necessarily realize that it's happening. And it is a habit. It becomes an automatic pattern of how we interact with ourselves, our ideas, the ways that we do things in the world. And the truth is, so many of my clients spend their whole lives trying to atone for things that they were never fucking guilty of in the first place. Let me say that again, because I think this is really important. So many of my clients spend their whole lives trying to atone for things that they were never guilty of in the first place. And there may be some places that you're doing that too. And so I want to invite you for a moment to imagine that we are in the woods somewhere and you have just come to a beautiful stone building. And this is my temple. And I want to invite you to step in to my temple. If it feels good to you, you can close your eyes. You can imagine this. You can just sit here and look at me. There's no wrong way to do this. But I want you to imagine, in whatever way feels good to you, that you are stepping in to my temple. And you have journeyed here over a great distance to make up for all of your wrongs, all of your insufficiencies, all of the things that you have fucked up, everything about who you are that needs fixing. You have traveled this great distance because you need to make up for those things. And I want you to just notice for a moment where in your body you feel those shadowy dark parts. For me, it's in my chest. It's like right on my sternum. And it can feel like a big, heavy weight when those pieces of me are taking up space and taking over. And if it feels good to you, put your hand on that part of your body, wherever it is, and hold it there for however long feels good while we're talking. Because you are in my temple now. And today I am your priestess. And I am here to tell you that you are not guilty. I hereby absolve you officially and completely. You are free. You are absolved. And if it feels good, you can say this with me, maybe with your hand on that part of your body where those shadowy parts are. I am not guilty. I am not guilty, and I never was. I was never guilty one day. And I want you to breathe that in. I'm getting emotional. And if you are too, just stay with that. We are going to stay with this together. You are not fucking guilty. And you never have been. You are whole and you are complete and you are perfect. And you have been the whole time. And the only difference between you and me is that I already knew that about you and you just found it out. But that's the only difference between us. And when that is true, which it fucking is, we don't need perfectionism to come in and keep us safe and kill our momentum to protect us from who we actually are. We don't need that anymore because you already have everything you need inside of you, and it has been there the whole time. It's a little like the end of The Wizard of Oz, where Glenda told Dorothy that she had the power to go home the whole time and she just had to click her heels together. All you need to do is just put your hand on that part of your body and remind yourself that you are not fucking guilty and you never fucking were. And when you do that, you create a new habit, a new pattern, a new way of relating to yourself and your ideas and the rest of the world and the things that you do and the dreams that you have. And you get to take back all of your fucks, all of your time and your energy and attention that has been devoted to trying to make up for this shit because you were never guilty in the first place and there is nothing to make up for. Perfectionism is a huge fuck sucker and you don't even need to do it anymore. So you get to take your fucks back from all of those places where they were getting sucked up and you get to turn them toward things that you actually want to pay attention to, toward the things that actually matter, toward the things that really make a difference for you. And I love, love, love what Dory just said in the chat. Deep insight for me that my attempt at perfect was not only to protect me, but others and loved ones. Yes, none of us do this because we're like, how could I make my entire fucking life miserable and exhausting all the fucking time? No, right? Like, we're not doing it for that. We do it for a good reason. This, like, nobody's screwed up here. So you don't have to make up for this either, right? You don't have to make up for being, perfectionistic at times, because it was for a good reason. It was to keep you safe. You just didn't realize that you already had that safety because someone at some point told you that this was what you needed to do to be safe, and you believed them. You did a great job. You did keep yourself safe, but now you can keep yourself safe and have it be a lot less work. Because not everything has to be A+ work. And I would offer you that sometimes doing A+ work is actually dangerous. And I'm going to give you an example. And I want to tell you right now that this example has a happy ending. But if it doesn't sound great to you from the beginning, feel free to tune out and then come back in, like 30, 45 seconds. Imagine for a second, and again, happy ending here. Imagine for a second you're driving down the road and you see somebody on the side of the road and they're bleeding out. And you're like, slam on the brakes. That's a good time to slam on the brakes. Not when you're like writing an email, just when you're driving by and you see someone in need on the side of the road, please stop and help them if you can. So this person is bleeding out on the side of the road. And A+ work here would be to create a sterile field, get gloved up, grab your sterile gauze and all of your surgical materials from the autoclave or whatever the fuck. Like, in a perfect world, A+ work, you'd be some kind of like emergency medical person like Robin, or like an emergency department physician or something like that. So you could be like, hey, I'll be right back. Get in your car, drive to CVS, get all the things, go to local hospital, round up a bunch of people, and then head back and be like, hey, I got everything. Or you could do the best you can to keep yourself safe, grab some McDonald's napkins out of the glove box, apply pressure with one hand and call 911 with the other. That's good enough work. And if you're going to spend an hour and 45 minutes creating a sterile field and getting sterile gauze and maybe going to medical school, I don't know what the fuck you're doing, that person is going to bleed out on the side of the road. And that is a place where A+ work is actually dangerous. That's a place where we hold ourselves to unnecessarily high standards. But because you know that good enough saves lives, because you know that good enough is good enough to get the job done, you're not going to let that happen anymore. You're going to grab those McDonald's napkins and you're going to apply pressure and you're going to call for help, because that is good enough, man. And good enough is plenty most of the time. If you have to administer medication on a schedule and like do it a certain way or else you're going to die, by all means, be perfectionistic about that shit. But most of the rest of the stuff does not require that. Nobody is going to die from getting dressed out of the laundry basket. Nobody is going to die from a typo in your Facebook post. There is not a single recorded incident in all of human history of someone dying from sending a good enough email. You don't have to work so hard to be safe. And if you are willing to work a little less hard, you are actually going to discover that you are a lot safer than you were before, because you're going to be able to be intentional with how you're using your time and your energy and your resources. Because those fucks that I talked about, those units of time and energy and attention that you give to things, those are a limited resource. And you cannot give 100% of your fucks to 100% of the things 100% of the time. I do believe that you actually can have everything. And I do believe that you actually can have everything faster than you think. But I do not believe that you can do it all simultaneously. Just like you can both inhale and exhale, and I would recommend you do both of them, you can't do them at the same time. Just try it. Prove me wrong. Try to exhale and inhale at the same time. You can't fucking do it because it's not possible. But that doesn't mean that you don't get to both inhale and exhale. You can do them in rapid succession. I would recommend that too. But you don't have to try to force yourself to do something impossible. And you don't have to give the same level of attention to every fucking thing in your life. I would recommend you give more attention to breathing and less attention to sweeping. If you have to pick one or the other, let the floor stay dirty and you focus on breathing. Most stuff like that is really easy to prioritize, but not everything is. Sometimes it's hard to know if it's more important to finish this last thing or go down for dinner. Sometimes it's hard to tell if it's more important to finish this last thing or go to bed when you're tired, right? So part of your mission here, should you choose to accept it, is to think intentionally about how you want to allocate your fucks. Whose fucks are whose? What is actually your problem and what is not your fucking problem? It is not my fucking problem if somebody doesn't like my Facebook post. It's only my problem if I like my Facebook post. So I don't have to devote time and energy and attention into having a conversation with someone who doesn't like my post. They're capable of unfollowing me or like I roll and scroll. We don't need to do that shit. We don't have to do all the things all the time for all the people. So you want to tune your fucks filter and really get curious about whose fucks need to be devoted to this thing. What is actually my priority? What is important to me? And how do I want to distribute my fucks to support what I'm actually here for? And this is a very, surface level conversation about this. This is something that when I work with people one-on-one or in my group program, we spend weeks on doing a fucks audit and drawing our fucks map and looking at what's the allocation and disposition of our fucks and the things that really aren't our problem. How are we going to get rid of them? So it takes a little bit of time to get the hang of this. It takes a little bit of time to see all of the places where your fucks are leaking out to things that you don't want. And for example, having your, 14-word email sound like Hemingway is a really good example of a place where like you probably don't need to spend so many fucks. You can probably just spend one instead of like 100 and you're going to be fine. Right? So you'll play around with it and you will get better at this. And you don't have to do it all at once, but just starting to get curious, whose fucks are these? And is this actually what I want to do with my limited resource? That's a really useful place to start. I also want to tell you, because this comes up for me and it comes up for almost 100% of my clients, probably like 98%, when they're like, well, Kristen, if I don't do A+ work, then I'm just like lowering my standards. And then I'm taking the easy way out and I'm letting myself off the hook. And I can't do that because then I'm somehow going to like starve to death and lose everything I've ever had. And I'm going to die under a bridge alone. And it's, and it becomes like a crisis. And I want to offer you that there is absolutely nothing wrong with taking the easy way out. Doing things like the easy way is really fucking smart. That is a very useful way to reclaim your fucks. Because if something can be done easily and you don't actually revel in whatever the hard way looks like, that doesn't actually fill you with joy, then just do it the easy way. And then use the energy and attention for something that you actually want to spend more time with, not something that can just be done and get off your plate. Also, I don't know about you, but I don't actually want to be like dangling on a hook all the time. That sounds fucking horrible. So if there is a way to get some fucks back from letting yourself off the hook, you should do it. That's smart. That's how we prioritize and use our fucks for what really matters instead of just spinning our wheels and tiring ourselves out with busy work. And so when we let ourselves do it well enough, that's where we get into action. That's where we start creating the things that we want and where we start seeing changes and meaningful shifts in our lives and in the rest of the world. Because here's the thing, and this is a fact, massive imperfect action beats non-existent perfect action every time. I would much rather you do a lot of imperfect shit than nothing because it's not perfect. And we are taught by society and our parents and teachers and coaches and experts all over the place. I don't think Tony Robbins says this, but I haven't jumped up and down a lot today, so I don't know yet. But we've been taught by all of these different people and sources that we have to figure things out first and then go do them, because otherwise something bad's going to happen. We're going to be embarrassed. We're going to fuck it up. We'll never come back from this somehow. But the truth is, the only way to figure it out is to do it. You can read all you want about learning to ride a bike. You can read about the biomechanics of cycling and how bikes are made and all this other shit. But the only way to actually figure out how to ride a bike is to get on a fucking bike and fall over a lot. Because the way we find where our center of balance is by learning where it's not. The way we learn how to not fall down is by falling down. The way we learn how to actually do something is by doing it. Usually badly at first, and then you get better at it over time. But this is a big experiment. And one of the tools that I teach my clients, and I'll have a podcast episode about this at some point, so like you're not missing anything right now, it's fine. But one of the tools I teach them is the FAFO method. FAFO stands for fuck around and find out. Because this is just all a big experiment. And the only way to find out is to fuck around. And then once we fuck around, we find out, and then we can iterate and we can do it better, and we can just keep doing it. And if your goal is to find out, you cannot possibly fail. It is literally impossible, because the name of the game is fuck around and find out. And if you found out, you won. Sometimes you'll find out that shit didn't work. Sometimes you'll find out I don't like that and I never want to do it again. But you fucking nailed it because you found out. And if you wait for perfection, you will never fuck around, which means you will never find out, which means you will never get better. You will never get better. You will never get good at the things that are important to you if you don't let yourself do them, not perfectly. Go do a good enough job. Do it a million times. Celebrate every fucking part of it. Focus on volume, not perfection. Do lots of imperfect things over and over and over again and learn from them every single time, and watch how fast you get good at the shit that you love, and watch how fast you take your fucks back from the shit you never liked in the first place. That is the essential art of imperfection. That right there. So if you take nothing else from this, I want you to take away the FAFO method. I want you to go fuck around and find out. I want you to go try these things and let yourself do them and see what happens. Because when you find out, you fucking nailed it. And you are going to blow your own mind with the kinds of things that you discover and the amount and quality of shit that comes out of you, whether it's in your business or your marriage or your parenting or your relationships with your friends or the content that you're putting out or what you're doing at the gym or whatever. You are going to blow yourself away with what comes out of you when you stop slamming on the brakes and start creating and cultivating and running with your own momentum. And so I have a lot more that I could tell you, but I don't know where we are in time now because I forget when I started. So I'm going to wrap it up, but I want to just invite you to get in contact with me. I'm going to drop a bunch of resources in the chat for you in just a second here. Subscribe to my email list. It is free. It's fucking hilarious. Follow me on Instagram and Facebook, also free, also fucking hilarious. I am launching a podcast in July. It's called From Fuck Me to Fuck Yeah with Kristen King. And we're going to be having a lot of these conversations. All the details on that are going to be in my emails and on my social media. I also have Fuck Around Fridays, which is a live group coaching opportunity on select Fridays. So I'm going to give you the link to the schedule, but the next one that's happening is this coming Friday. And so if you want to bring some perfectionistic bullshit that's fucking up your other shit and get coached on it live, you're welcome to join me there. It's $7. So I'll put the links to all of this stuff in the chat. And whether you want those things or not, definitely do get on my email list because that is where my best stuff comes out. It's the easiest way to get everything I have. And it's also the easiest way to get constant reminders to go fuck around and do some shit and see what happens and to elevate FAFO and imperfection to your own art form. So that's it for me. I'm going to turn it back over to Robin to introduce our next speaker. And thank you guys so much. I don't know where we are in terms of whether we have time for questions. Robin, you tell me, but I'll be watching the chat. So
yeah, you're good. If anybody has any questions for Christian, go for it.
yeah, I am totally here for questions. And while we are waiting for those, I'm gonna paste some shit in the chat and we'll give you these links after too.
Yeah.
I love that we have like legit FAFO stands in the audience here. Yay.
Amazing. All right.
Okay, well, I'm
Yeah.
not seeing any questions,
I don't
but
see any
if
questions,
they
so
come up,
yep,
I'll answer them in the chat or we'll hold
yep,
them for later. And
yep.
so
And we also
thank
have
you
time at
guys
the
so
end.
much. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
perfect. Thank you guys.
Thank you, Kristen. That was amazing, as always. That was perfect for me today. So this whole summit has been perfect. Like it seems like every day I'm saying that. Like the next person will come up to talk and I'll be like, oh, that's what I needed to hear. And then Kristen talks. I'm like, that's exactly what I needed. Thank you. So I'm pretty impressed with that. Every single one has been amazing. So next we have up for you Jen Frey. I see her here waiting in the wings. And she's gonna talk to you guys about how to celebrate. No, even when and no matter what. So I think that's an amazing topic. There's so many people that we forget to celebrate in our lives. Anybody? Yeah, all the time. And it's so easy. I love it ties in so perfect with what Chris was just talking about because it's like we'll do all these amazing things and then that perfectionism tendency will come in. We'll just start to clobber ourselves and like immediately stop celebrating all the amazing stuff we did and just start beating ourselves up over the one thing that we weren't happy with. Like, is that just me? Does everybody do that? Like, I don't know if that ties in exactly what to Jen's about to present, but I'm guessing that it applies somehow because she's going to talk about how to start celebrating so that you can have more joy and also more momentum in your life. So Jen, take it away, my friend.
Thank you. Yes, it totally ties in. So super excited to be here with all of you. The official title of this presentation is Celebrate Even When and No Matter What. So I want you to just keep that in the back of your minds as I go through this content. So when you think about the word celebrate, what comes to your mind? For me, I immediately think of celebration as like a noun, like a party or an event. It's something that I'm like maybe participating in, but I'm also sort of watching, I'm seeing. Yeah, so Sarah says party. But then I also can think of it as a verb, like to celebrate. I'm the one doing the celebrating. I'm maybe doing the Tony Robbins, like woo, and I'm expressing the celebration. I know that there's coaches and entrepreneurs who have little rituals of celebration for themselves where it's like, you know, dancing, having a dance party when they achieve a goal or when they take the next step, right? So it's the verb of celebration. But I also am learning that on a deeper level, celebration can also be a feeling. So, as Robin said, I'm Jen Fry. I'm a master certified coach with the Life Coach School. I coach and mentor other coaches. I also work with solopreneurs, nonprofit leaders, and I am really passionate about helping these leaders learn to allow their emotions and feel as confident on the inside as they look to everyone else on the outside. I always think of if you've ever seen that movie, A League of Their Own, where Tom Hanks is like, there's no crying in baseball. And that's what so many of us have been taught. Like, there's no emotions in the workplace. But any of us who have studied managing our brains, managing our minds, we know that is completely not true. And the best leaders understand emotions. The best leaders understand that our feelings fuel what we do. And so that is what I teach my clients. I want to start by thanking Robin and the rest of the coaches who have worked on this summit because I've gotten so many ahas. I think I've learned more than I'm going to teach you today. So for that, I'm very grateful. And I also have a confession. And the confession is that I thought pretty hard about bowing out today. I thought about backing out. I thought about bailing on all of you. But then when I saw the vulnerability and the courage that other coaches were bringing, I decided that me being just me, exactly where I am right in this moment, is good enough. And I'm hoping that I bring to you exactly what you need to hear in this moment. So I spent most of the day yesterday in the hospital with my mom and my 94-year-old grandmother. I was with my mom when we decided to stop life-sustaining care for my grandma in favor of treatment to just make her comfortable. And that really looked like ice chips, pain relief, holding her hand, occasional conversation. Up until about a week ago, she was living on her own. She was driving her little red Mercedes around her town with an oxygen tank in the front seat. And then she had a fall and has been in a steady decline ever since. So even though I'm painting maybe a little bit of a somber situation, it was also somewhat of a celebration. Now, before coaching, I would have seen this scene of me and my mom making these really hard decisions with my grandma, not feeling her best, feeling uncomfortable, in pain. And I would have tried to logic myself into a certain place with this. I would have tried to logic myself into believing I'm just so lucky to have had her for so long. How many 40 somethings can say that they have a grandma? And my kids know their great grandma. And that is 100% true. And I would have logicked my way out of the grief and the sadness and the sorrow, thinking that I should just be one or the other. I had a very black and white way of looking at the world. So I want to ask you if you are able to see the gray, or if your brain loves to go to one place, to sadness, to grief, to happiness. And if you see yourself logicking in and out of emotions, you are not alone. And I think that is part of a way that our brain protects us. When I learned about coaching, I learned how to hold capacity for both. And so that's the first point I want to share with you about celebration. It's this ability for both and, even when, no matter what. We can feel sad, scared, defeated, but there's also happiness, conviction, and hope. We know that we think that we have to choose one, but it actually isn't true. And one emotion isn't better than the other. Sarah Bond talked to us yesterday about love, and she said that in order to know love, in order to know joy, we also had to know its opposite. We had to know pain. We have to know sorrow. We have to know defeat in order to know hope. And all within all of these, within all of this duality of emotion, there is celebration. If you've ever read anything by Glennon Doyle, she says that life is brutal. It's brutal and it's beautiful all at the same time. And when we make room for both, it's such a rich experience. I call it bittersweet. It's the bitterness of saying goodbye, but the sweetness of knowing how many memories I have. It's the bitterness of watching someone struggle, but also the sweetness of knowing that last weekend my grandma was at my house gambling, playing a dice game, and she beat me, by the way. But I hold that memory. It's bittersweet. And if we look for suffering, we know that's what we'll find. But if we look for celebration and joy and love, it's present too. But the thing is, allowing the duality, allowing both feels risky, feels easier to pick just one. And maybe our brain thinks it's easier, but here's the second point around celebration is that we are afraid we're not worthy of the full human experience. We're afraid we're not worthy of celebration. And that's kind of what Robin was saying as she introduced me and introduced this topic. Why is it that we cheer for a toddler when she takes that first step, but we refuse to celebrate our own first, our first podcast download, our first paid client, our first experience as a manager, our first time running our own meeting? I believe it's because we know in our hearts that that toddler is worthy. We want to celebrate, we want to encourage. But when it comes to ourselves, we second guess. We want to encourage and celebrate not just the actions of the toddler, but who they are. And then somewhere along the way, we become adults and we believe that human beings isn't enough. It's not enough to just exist in this world. So we have to earn our celebrations. And so we resist that feeling of celebration. We encourage children, but we find it difficult to be in courage with ourselves. Encourage, a verb. What if we celebrate too early and something bad happens? What if the proverbial other shoe drops? What if we should simply be grateful for what we have because other people have it so much worse? These thoughts constrict our humanity and they strip us of the beautiful, the bittersweet experience that I believe we're meant to have. Now, here's the other hard truth. Our lack of celebration does not improve anyone else's situation. We believe we are unworthy of feeling good when others feel bad. And all that results in is lots of people not feeling great. It just results in a collective low vibration. We all bring ourselves down. And I want to invite you instead to find the celebration so that you can be part of the light, so that you can be part of the hope for someone else. Because when we can celebrate, even when and no matter what, we become part of that energy. We become an example of what's possible. When we hold opposite emotions, we show people what it's like to be human. And that is a gift. Celebrating, even if and no matter what, is not about toxic positivity. We're not trying to swap out uncomfortable feelings. It's actually the opposite. When our children are struggling, or death is knocking, or we're tired, or we're sick, we're not trying to ignore that grief and that fatigue. Celebrating opens us so that we can acknowledge and be part of that grief and the fatigue and the feelings that are coming up on one side, but we also get to experience the opposite. The opposite is the joy or the love or the celebration. We welcome both and. We get to have both. We don't have to choose. We don't have to decide. We get to have both. Because the only reason that we feel the grief is that we've also felt love. We feel fatigue because we also know what it means to be energetically alive. We can feel that difference in how it presents in our bodies. Both are within us and both are welcome. You are not one dimensional and you do not have to choose. You can celebrate now and celebrate as much as you want, even when and no matter what, because you are already worthy. You have already done enough that you can be celebrated just as you are. Just as I can show up today, just as I am, feeling a little shaky, feeling a little rocky, feeling a little sad, but also celebrating the life of an extraordinary woman. Also celebrating all of us being here today and celebrating Robin for putting this work together. So, what does it mean to celebrate? I really think it means to be in courage, 2 words. To be encouraged with myself to know that my worthiness can't be changed by what I do or don't do. Whether I take a step like the toddler or I fall in my bum, also like the toddler. It means that I have the emotional capacity to be both at the same time. I do not have to choose. So I choose, and I invite you to make this decision also. I choose to celebrate every day. I celebrate not just my actions, but also myself and the people around me. As Robin said, what are the things that I haven't seen? Where have I missed celebrating? Because I've been in a different emotion, because I thought I had to choose, because I didn't know that I had capacity for both. I celebrate choosing myself and choosing this human experience in a beautiful, bittersweet world. So, what does this have to do with momentum? I think it means that we don't have to spend any more time forcing ourselves into a new feeling or avoiding our feeling or thinking we have to choose. The more we celebrate, the more pleasure, the more enjoyment and courage we have. And these are 3 feelings that can make a huge difference in our willingness to pursue our dreams. Like Kristen said, if we just keep showing up and failing and practicing and figuring it out, it is impossible to fail. So there's no reason not to celebrate. There is no shoe to drop. There is no failure. We get to have it all. What might be different in your life if that was your outlook? So I'd like to lead you through a short meditation to really help you to be in your body, to allow those feelings, allow the different vibrations, because they can both exist and our brain does not like that. So I invite you, if you're comfortable, you are welcome to close your eyes or gaze down at the floor. Turn off your camera if that is helpful. And I want you to think of a feeling that might be blocking you from celebrating. And as you're thinking about that feeling, where does it sit in your body? Maybe I'm thinking, I can't celebrate because it's not enough. Where does unworthy sit in your body? Maybe I'm thinking, it's not fair. It's not fair that I celebrate when someone else is suffering. Where is unfairness? Maybe I'm thinking, it's just too sad. Where is sadness in your body? And I want to lead you through like a head to toe just observation of your body. And I just want you to notice where that feeling sits and what it is like in your body. We want to witness that emotion. So starting at the top of your head, is there anything that feels like it's blocking you? It's usually going to present as like constriction, hard, tight, dark. It's a block. We don't always look at our faces when we think about our emotions and when we feel our emotions, but it shows up in our eyes and our eyebrows and our sinus cavities. What's going on in your jaw? Come down to your neck. What's happening? What's happening in your collarbone? Do you notice any block? Down into our chest, into our rib cage, into our waist. What's going on in your stomach? Anywhere that you feel a block. Down through the hips, through the seat, through the tops of our legs, the kneecaps, the shins, the tops of the feet, and our ankles. Is there any tightness, constriction, anything that feels like a block? Take a look at your arms. Sometimes it helps to actually physically move them. The shoulders, the tops of our arms, our wrists, and our hands. And then if we go back to the top of our head and now we go down the back of our body, because sometimes we forget that there's two sides. And so we feel the back of our heads and our neck and our shoulders, tops of the shoulders and the shoulder blades. Is there a block for you? And sometimes we can wiggle that around and we're just noticing. And we go down the spine into the lower back, into the seat, into the hamstrings, the backs of the knees, the calves, into the bottom of our feet, the backside of our arms, backs of our hands. And I just want you to take a breath and just feel the tension, the block, the darkness, whatever that is like for you in your body of that emotion. And I want you to notice that when we did that body scan, it wasn't everywhere. That block was not everywhere in your body. And even if you only noticed an absence of it in your ears and in your kneecaps, it is not everywhere. So find a place in your body where there's an absence of that block and take a breath there. Your fingers, your kneecaps, your ears, your elbows, sometimes our arms or our hands, our feet. And just breathing in that energy from where we have a lack of tightness, a lack of that sensation, a lack of that emotion, and breathing out. And from here, we want to go back to the place where we felt the block, and we're inhaling here into that block and exhaling it. And nothing has to move, nothing has to change. All we're doing is showing our brain that they coexist: love and sorrow, happiness and sadness, celebration and disappointment. They can be in our bodies together. So breathing in where there's a lack of that feeling, a lack of block, and just alternating. Exhaling, inhaling. Going between where we feel an absence of the sensation to a place where we are experiencing that block, where we do feel that sensation. And then we'll take a couple more breaths, and I invite you, if it feels right, to take that breath from where there's an absence of the block and inhale it into the place where you have the block. And again, we're not moving, we're not changing, we're just increasing the capacity. Like Robin taught us on that second day, we're increasing the size of our triangle. We're making it bigger and they can live together. And taking just one more breath and noticing how that feels for you. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes, come back. Just notice, do that head to toe scan in your own mind. Is anything different? We don't expect it to be totally fine, whatever your experience was. We just want to notice. We want our brain to understand we are always more than one thing. We are the both and. Now, I promised a plan with this talk. And so to create this plan, it can be helpful to identify an area of growth. Is it your capacity to feel so that you can invite in both grief and sorrow? Do you want to be in courage with yourself so that you can acknowledge that celebration might come up with disappointment or an opposite emotion? Do you need to work on, or do you want to work on this idea that you are already worthy of celebration? Not for what you do, but because of who you are in this world, because you simply exist. Because we want to cheer for you, just like we cheer for that toddler taking that first step. You are worthy. Now, I struggle with all of these, and I still do. And I'm still learning, and I'm learning the depth of the importance of celebrating and the depth of love for myself and what that really looks like. But on the other side of it, the more encouraged I become with myself, the more I'm willing to celebrate, the more I'm willing to take those risks. I'm also more connected to humans. I'm also in so much more connection to the people around me. And when you are ready, I invite this and I want this for you too. So, one of the ways that I would like to serve this group is by offering you a meditation that is personal to you. So, you can get it by emailing me or messaging me. What is the feeling that's blocking you? And I will walk you through that meditation specific for you to help you on that journey, to help you with that first step. As I said, we're all works in progress. That doesn't mean that we're not worthy. It doesn't mean anything except that we're human and we're here and we get to keep growing together. So I invite you to celebrate yourself, celebrate the things that you find beauty in. Find the celebration on the other side of the sorrow. And if you feel like you want more information, of course, follow me on Instagram. I also have a podcast called Think on Purpose. Robin was one of my amazing guests. We had a great conversation. I'd love for you to take a listen to that. I appreciate your time today. Thank you for your grace with my feeling a little bit unsteady, and I appreciate all of you. Happy to answer any questions either in the chat or if you want to raise your hands or just unmute. Don't see any questions. Okay, back to you, Robin.
All right, welcome. All right, amazing. Thank you so much, Jen. That was amazing. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to say this after every single one, but like that was also just what I needed. That's crazy. Yeah, thank you. That was very good. That's something I struggle with a lot. Man, it just seems like it's always. And I don't know, like it's interesting to think sometimes I think about like, wouldn't it be nice if that just went away if I could be, but then then I think about the whole idea of contrast again, right? And everything that Sarah talked about yesterday. And sometimes I get frustrated with myself when I, for it. It's like, God, like why, like when is this gonna go away? And so I think everything that we've been doing through this whole summit, it's like has been really helpful for that because it's just been that like constant each time that somebody comes up, like another reminder, another reminder, another reminder in a different way, right? And that has just felt like a kind of like a waterfall of love, just like and sometimes because it's like, and I need that sometimes, just like constant, sometimes I feel like our I don't know if you say like the cup is so full or something. It's like, is it full yet? And it's like, I just feel like I need so much of that at times. And so this weekend has been really amazing for that. It's just been that constant, steady stream of everything that I need to hear. So that was one of them. Thank you, Jen. I appreciate you.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Well, up next, we've got Gretchen and Sade. I see them both here. Something happened on my screen where for some reason I'm in the speaker view. It sounds like that's not like that for everyone else. So I'll let Kristen fix that for us. There we go. And then I'll turn it over to Gretchen and Sade to introduce themselves and take it away.
All right. Thank you so much. So you'll notice that we have a slide deck, and there's a very good reason for that. It's that when I first started trying to create any kind of online training or speak to the public, I was scared to death to be on camera. So even after years of doing it in person, leading lots of people, as soon as I turned on a camera, I like freaked out. But I was like, okay, I'm doing online courses. So I tried doing it without a slide deck, and I did it, and I had created 3 full-length trainings. And then I found out later that I had done the most difficult version of training people. And I didn't realize that, like Amy Porterfield had to clue me in on that it's okay to do things easier. And so for me, having a slide deck makes it so much easier. And so I gave myself permission to use slide decks in any training that I do. So that's why I have slide deck. And I'm so excited that Sade and I get to come on and teach you all about this amazing tool. So just to give a little background, Sade actually presented this question in a coaching group that we're in, saying, hey, does everybody know about the drama triangle and empowerment triangle? And we were surprised that not a whole lot of people knew. And so we both really love this tool. And so I asked Sade, hey, when are you going to do this training? And she's like, oh no, you are not going to just dump this on me. We are going to do this together. And so we are trying to figure out where is the best place to do this together, because we both love this. So I'm so grateful that Robin gave us the opportunity to come and share this. And so we're going to introduce ourselves really quick. So I'm Gretchen Hernandez, and I'm a business process and mindset coach. And so I'm helping entrepreneurs to get their businesses up and running smoothly and profitably. And so I do product design, all of the sales funnels, all the tech, like all of the stuff, but also mental health. So mental health is very, very important to me. So I have a podcast called My Freedom Grove Podcast, and it's all about designing business and mental health in harmony. And Sade?
All right. Hi, everyone. So good to be here. I've enjoyed all of the presentations that I have been privileged to be a part of. So I am Sade Curry. I am a dating coach for divorced women, and there's a lot of drama that goes on there. And I certainly went through a very dramatic divorce, and probably can be a little dramatic myself. So yeah, this tool is like perfect for me. But I'm the host of the Dating After Divorce podcast. I tell the stories of women who've been divorced and found love again. And I think this year my podcast theme is really bringing on experts. So I have about 60 stories on there. And this year I thought, okay, let's bring on some experts. So I'm bringing on a lot of coaches and doctors and experts to just talk about the divorce process and the dating process and the science behind it. So that's like the favorite part of my business is hosting my podcast. All right, I think we can go ahead and jump in.
Yeah, so today we're going to talk about this one tool set called the drama triangle and the empowerment triangle. So I love that Robin has the identity triangle. This is also showing this is part of our natural identity. Like drama happens, and a lot of times it's unconscious. We don't realize that that we're contributing to it. We can feel it, and it doesn't always feel great, and it can slow everybody down. And sometimes drama happens just within ourselves, and then of course in any of our relationships. And so there is a way of recognizing when it's happening and knowing why it's happening. Like we're going to go over the dynamics behind it so that you can see where are you contributing, because that's going to empower you on how can you shift out of it. And this is for yourself as well as anybody else that is part of that drama. And so this could be in your personal relationships. So Sade is going to give a lot of examples about dating and marriage relationships. This can also happen in your professional life. So whether you're an employee or a business owner, this can definitely happen. And so we're going to show you the background behind the drama triangle, and the empowerment triangle, where it's going to show you the dynamics of how to shift over into empowerment so that everybody wins.
Right, so we'll start with the drama triangle. And this, I learned about this just as I started to go through therapy and recovery during and after my divorce. And it was designed by Dr. Stephen Karpman. He called it the drama triangle. And it shows like a dynamic that happens that keeps chaos or drama or stuckness in place. And so there are three roles that contribute to this. You have the persecutor. And in this role, the person or thing that takes the role of the persecutor projects blame outward. So it's the fault of the victim. So they're projecting blame for the situation or for the dynamic on the victim. And that's so, and there's so many, there are different, I guess, people or things that can take that role. The persecutor sees themselves as the person who like has all the knowledge and understands what's happening and is like apportioning blame and it's your fault. The victim, and I think this is where I recognize myself a lot in this triangle, feels trapped, feels powerless, helpless, hopeless. I can't do anything. And then you have the rescuer who tries to save the victim from perceived harm. Typically, the persecutor is considered the perceived harm, and the rescuer, like, typically is trying to create a short-term fix because they are in discomfort and they don't like the situation. So the situation makes them uncomfortable and they want to change it to escape their own selves or to escape their own responsibility. And I mean, if you look at these dynamics, I'll give you a couple of examples. I'd love for you to just think about where you see these dynamics in your own life or in your own business. I know for me, it's showed up a lot in parenting, especially as you parent kids through different stages. It's like, you know, you're the persecutor, or the kid tells you you're the persecutor, but then sometimes you're also the rescuer coming in to save them. Blended family dynamics, which I work with a lot of women who are trying to blend a family or stepping into blending a family. We talk about that a lot in my coaching practice. But in my divorce, it became really clear to me that I thought I was the victim. And there were many circumstances and facts that could be interpreted as that I was the victim and my ex-husband was the villain. And then in that dynamic, I looked for anything that would rescue me from the pain and the overwhelm and the grief that I was experiencing. And so during that period, you know, emotional eating took place. There was, I wouldn't say over drinking, but you know what? Drinking to feel better happened for sure. Venting, I was constantly venting to my friends. And I'll just touch on this story that like my best friend, and I don't even know how she stayed my best friend, had two premature children in the space of 2 years. My divorce took 3 years. And it clicked to me when I was visiting her in the NICU, and she was, you know, holding her second preemie child. And guess what I was still talking about? My divorce and my ex. And in that moment, I realized that something was wrong and I should probably shut up and stop talking about my issues in that moment. So that was the kind of victim that I was at that time. And I looked for anything, friends, food, whatever, to rescue me from what I was experiencing. So the drama triangle itself can be triggered by change in your life. Something really hard happens, like a divorce. It could also be growth. You know, you try to scale your business. You're trying to, you're going into a new relationship. It could actually be triggered by something good. And so it's a period of growth or learning, or you're learning something hard. So even though when you read about it, it's called dysfunctional, I just like to think of it as human. right? This is our shadow side, and we're going to be in it. Like, you're not going to escape being in the drama triangle. So if you want to give it a different name that feels better, it's good. It really, the goal here is to really embrace and accept and consider with compassion that we're going to be in this place at some point, and hold space for, oh, I'm human. I'm going to be here. It's okay if I don't have the answer right now. And to, think about exploring some of the unintentional thoughts and feelings that are part of being the villain, or being the victim, or being the rescuer, and seeing it as a learning opportunity.
And then I'm going to share some work examples. So I was a coach in biotech for a very long time. And so with 1,000 people at the site, you can imagine there was a lot of drama that would happen. And I'm going to share how it actually affected my health, because I'm sure a lot of you probably recognize yourself in that rescuer role, because especially if you've thought about being a coach, or you are a coach, it was probably because you started off as a rescuer first, always wanted to help people. And I'm this same way. And so there was a time that I was pulled onto a project because it was 2 months late, and they wanted me to bring it back on as the project manager, to bring it back on time. And we had this vice president of research and development who was being that persecutor. He was walking around and blaming all of the people on the team, saying that it was their fault that it was late. He's so disappointed, thinking that if he shames them enough that they'll get into gear and get the work done. What was actually happening, though, was that it was causing them to feel victimized. And so instead of motivating them to actually work, they stopped working altogether. They sat around complaining and looking for other jobs. And so me being the project manager, I'm taking on the responsibility, feeling like it's all my responsibility to get everybody like harmonious, working together. So I want to come in and rescue. So not only did I come in and speak to the vice president and tell him stop coming around and talking to my people, which he got so mad at. He's like, oh, you can't talk to me that way. So I'm risking my own job. But then also I'm trying to get the team to not feel victimized so much. So instead of like trying to motivate them to do all of the work, I was like, no, I want to actually like get them happy again. So what did I do? I shifted their work over onto me, because I already knew how to do a lot of the stuff that they were trying to do, and had a lot more experience, so I could do it a lot faster. So what happened is I started working between 16 and 23 hours a day for 46 days straight to try to bring this project in on time. The result on my health is I had a mini stroke. I wasn't even 30 yet. I was just married. I was trying to have a baby, and instead I had a mini stroke because of this drama that was going on. Definitely a rescuer. So it's been a lifelong journey trying to overcome being that rescuer and switching over into a coach role. But I didn't even know that was possible because I didn't know about this dynamic. I just felt all of the drama and reacted to it. And I notice that this happens even if there's no other people involved. So many of us are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, and we might start blaming ourselves that we're not going fast enough at what we're doing. That we're stepping into a persecutor role where we're blaming ourselves. And what happens with that is that we automatically shift into a victim role because we've created that dynamic for ourselves. And we're feeling really bad, and the emotional storm starts. And I don't know about you guys, but I end up laying in bed. And in fact, when Robin did her meditation earlier today and she was talking about rock bottoms, all of a sudden I pictured myself laying in bed being the victim. So at that point, I might try to rescue myself with food, with alcohol, with going and helping other people, with expanding my service offering to do more stuff for people as opposed to coaching them. So this can happen even just for one person. But the good news is you can break out of that. There is another way. And so that's where the empowerment triangle comes in. This was so helpful to find out. So this was developed by David Emerald, and he called this the empowerment dynamic. And I believe he has a whole book on this. And I was just shown the tool and seeing what these other roles were. It was amazing because now it's like I had direction on where I could go, that instead of being that persecutor, it could be a visionary or a challenger. And so for a challenger, that means that we're challenging our ways of thinking about things. A visionary is painting the vision of what you actually do want, and as opposed to blaming anybody for how things are or that and that you don't want it. It's like, well, talk about what you actually do want. And then instead of a victim, when someone is painting that vision, you become a creator. You're not a victim anymore because nobody's blaming you. In fact, you're looking at ways that you can contribute and help to create that vision, make that vision come true. And then as a rescuer, it takes a little bit of time in order to switch over. If you catch yourself rescuing, to go, no, wait, as a coach, how can I empower them? So coaches are there asking the questions of the persecutor to help shift them into that visionary role. And then talking with the people that used to feel like victims to how can you help to create this vision? And so once we can see what these other roles are, we have an idea of where we were before and where we can go to.
Okay, so like Gretchen said, the goal is to shift. But again, we want to start with like just holding space and love and acceptance for where we are. Like there's always that temptation to be like, hurry up and shift. When we find ourselves in a place where we're uncomfortable or we are less than, showing up as what we consider less than our highest self. So you want to think about it as an opportunity for growth, identifying the role you're playing, and then the role you want to shift into. And so when I shifted, and this is kind of like a little bit of how I looked at the empowerment triangle, which I actually learned about late in my divorce. I spent the first half of my divorce in a lot of drama. Like there was just a ton of it, many, many months in drama. And as I went through recovery, started coaching, got into coaching, one of the books that I did read was The Empowerment Dynamic. And at that point, when I started dating, I was firmly in the empowerment dynamic. Like I was over here being a visionary, doing something completely different with myself, right? So I started from the place of having a vision, which, if you follow me anywhere, I talk about like, you got to have clarity on where you're going. And then that created all of the other dynamics versus how I approached my divorce, which is like starting from the position of victim and then keeping that in place. So we have like the opportunity to understand, you have the opportunity to like shift when you have the material to shift. So like if you understand where you are, then you can totally move into where you want to be in the empowerment dynamic. And so the next few slides are just going to be us taking each of these roles, persecutor/villain, and then what kind of questions can you ask yourself to move into the visionary? If you're a victim, how can you move into creator? If you're a rescuer, how can you move into being a coach? I remember something that happened early when I was dating my husband. So I'd gone through all of the dating stuff, definitely in the empowerment dynamic. Like I loved dating after my divorce. I had a really good time, dated some really good men. It didn't mean that some things didn't happen that I didn't like, but overall, I had a great experience, met my husband within 18 months, even with a 3-month break from dating. But this particular situation came while we were dating. And this is actually how I found the Life Coach School, where I got my first certification. And I'm currently also certified as an advanced feminist coach with Kara Lowenthal. So like, it really started me on a journey that I'm so grateful for. I'm grateful for the drama that got me here. So, we were dating and it was early days and we had this, we had an argument. So I remember, I think the argument happened during the day. It might have been by text or over the phone, or maybe we ate lunch. I don't remember the argument. I just know I went home. I was like, this is it. I don't have to put up with this. I'm going to like set some boundaries with this guy. Right? A few months prior, I had been at a conference with an LCS, where I met an LCS coach, and she had turned me on to the Life Coach School podcast. And I listened to a couple of episodes and I was like, I don't get it, whatever. But I had queued up the boundaries and love episodes on YouTube to get back to later. So I was like, okay, I'm going to find out about some boundaries. So I went to YouTube. And so in that moment, I was the victim. My boyfriend at the time, now husband, was the villain. And YouTube and boundaries videos were going to be my rescuer to really help me out. And so I went to YouTube, I pulled up the boundaries videos, and I started to listen. Unfortunately, or fortunately for me, these were Brooke Castillo's boundaries videos. And she made it very clear that my boundaries had nothing to do with him, that I was 100% in charge of the experience I was having. And she broke it all down, and I was like, oh, dang it, I have to change. I have to do something. I get to create what I want. And in just those 2 videos, I completely shifted from the victim role in my relationship, my very new relationship, into a creator, because all of my thoughts after that were like, well, what do you want to create? Like, what do you want to do here? What are you trying to achieve here? And it really was an opportunity to make a quantum leap in my growth. And so I'm kind of thankful for that argument. I'm thankful for that drama. And I'm thankful that there was a coach in place to like help me make that shift so that I could move over to the empowerment dynamic. So we're going to just go on the next few slides and just share with you questions you can ask yourself, what you're looking for in each of these. And we'll start with the villain to visionary slide.
All right. So persecutor or villain, again, usually someone who is blaming or criticizing another person or your own self. Like that really, really hurts. One of the things is that there's a psychological defense mechanism that we all tend to have as humans where it's called projection. So whenever we're blaming someone else, oftentimes there's something very similar in what we're blaming the other person for, that it's really how we are. So that's a first thing just to check in on, is the thing that I'm blaming this other person for, am I also doing it? It's like a really good question to ask yourself. But if you're also blaming yourself for something, this is where curiosity is going to come in. And this is for when you're blaming yourself, or if you find that you're blaming someone else, is getting curious, right? It's when we're blaming, we're holding them against a standard, like they should have done something this way. But if we get curious as to, well, why did they do what it was that they were doing? Was there an obstacle that got in the way of them being able to do the thing that they were going to do? Is it that maybe they didn't even want to do that thing? And why not? Maybe they didn't even know. And that's a lot of times we put a lot of rules on people on how we think that they should behave, and we don't actually like clue them in. They have no clue that that's what they were supposed to be doing. And we didn't actually get their buy-in that that was what they also agreed to do. So we got to get curious. And when we get curious with each other, we're also finding out what are our individual requirements for a vision that works for everybody. Because as a visionary, we're trying to get everybody on board as a win-win. It's not I win and you lose, or I win most of the time and you win some of the time. How is it that we take one person's requirements for success and another person's requirement for success and combine it into one win-win vision? Because when you do that, you get everybody on board. You become a team. You empower each other, and everybody's got skin in the game that they want to see success for this. And so that's where number 3 was, which is aligning on a win-win future state. And just a quick example of how I helped to shift something in the corporate environment. We had the president of our site who was falling into this persecutor role all the time and blaming people. And this is the world's largest biotech site, like in the whole world, manufacturing cancer medicine. And so he would get a little upset at people and he'd just be blaming them. Well, we didn't have time for things to slow down because we have patients that need this medicine to stay alive. So luckily I was his coach. And so I had to point out the hard thing that's like, hey, you're kind of being this persecutor. But here's the vision, like, and asking him, what do you actually want to have happen? And oh my gosh, he lit up when talking about the vision that he had. He got excited. So he went from having a lot of anger and resentment towards a lot of people at the site to getting really excited. And then when he was able to go around and talk with people about this vision, they got excited too. And all of a sudden, things started moving a lot faster. And it was just from that one switch. It's like, let's talk about what we actually do want.
Yeah. Actually, I wanted to something came to my mind about a family dynamic. And I think you and I mentioned something about mismatching socks, our kids mismatching socks when we were preparing. And I remember, raising toddlers, and I'm sure many of you will identify with this, like getting to that win-win future state. Like I remember times where I was like, okay, my goal is for this child to have socks on in the dead of a Missouri winter. The child's goal is to pick out their socks and have not help at all. And in the end, it was like, well, even if they wear mismatched socks or whatever, they're warm and they picked out their socks. Even in little things in a family dynamic, it can be so important to just take a moment and be like, okay, what are we really trying to do here? What do they want? What do I want? How can we get to the same place? And I also just wanted to call out in the comments, Kristen's comment about patriarchal stress disorder, the book, amazing book, by the way, if you haven't read it, it's so good. And one of the concepts that it highlights is that internal, so like it's an internal bias. It's almost like the villain's voice gets installed within us by society and conditioning and all of that. And so then we become that villain to ourselves, like telling ourselves, hey, you need to do this, you need to do this, and falling into that victim role. And if we can recognize it within ourselves, we can shift that vision. Like, is this the vision, the standard I'm trying to rise up to? Is that something I ever really wanted for myself? Is that something that aligns with who I really am? All right, let's talk about shifting from victim to creator. Again, this is my favorite part of the of the shift, because I found myself here quite a bit. I remember this is early in my divorce, during my marriage. So my ex was, I guess you could say, bad with money, right? And really bad with money. Hated any kind of like growth mindset. Like, hey, here's a book on what we could do here, and we're young and making all this money. What if we save this? And didn't want any of that. So after the divorce, all the money things happen in the divorce. And in my head, throughout the marriage, 17 years, I blamed him for our money troubles. Like, he was the problem. And in many ways, he was the problem. He was the overt problem, right? But then during my divorce, when I was having money problems and I couldn't stick to a budget and I was having issues, I was like, wait a second. He's not here. I'm the only one here, and I still can't stick to a budget. So in that moment, I realized that I had been the victim during my marriage of his villainous acts with money, and I rescued myself. I enabled myself to not grow my own skills, to not take financial responsibility, to not do things even if he didn't give permission, to be like, I know I should put money in my 401k. I know I should start a 529 for my kids, and whether or not he gives me permission, I'm going to do that. I didn't take that responsibility. I blamed him for it, but I rescued myself from stepping into that. And so that was the drama triangle with money in my marriage. And so I realized that when he wasn't there anymore, when the money was coming straight from my income into my bank account, and I was still having challenges in that area. So the seeing when you feel like a victim, or if you felt like a victim for a long time, the creator role is where you take, and I think all of the roles are kind of like this, sort of like taking your eyes off others first and looking at yourself, like, right? And so if you're in that victim role where it's like, nothing's happening, I can't do anything, I'm super passive, powerless, it's all their fault. What I could have asked myself during the marriage was, wait a second, okay, I can't, we have our monies joined and I can't do anything about that. That would have been my victim identity. I could have asked, where are things working, or where could things work, right? Where are things working in terms of saving money? Where do I have power? Where do I have an opportunity to do something different? I remember I wanted to buy, I loved Google, the search engine when it first came out. I was a pioneer user. And I wanted to buy Google stock then. And in my mind, I couldn't because my husband at the time said no. But if I had asked question number one, where are things working for me? Like, where do I have an opportunity to buy the stock? I could probably have taken a bonus or some money from somewhere else or done some babysitting or whatever. There's tons of opportunities. So asking where are things working for me, if you feel like nothing's working, asking where can I be resourceful and meet my own needs. So when in the victim role and often in the rescuer role, there tends to be a mindset that someone else should meet the need. The person, and it's usually whoever the persecutor is, should be meeting this need. And if the persecutor appears to not be meeting the need, then the question is, where can I meet my own need? Where can I be resourceful to meet my own needs? I would say in my past, I was not aware of my needs at all. So that's I needed someone to ask me this question. So how can you meet your own needs and stop venting about your ex, right? So understanding your own needs, understanding where you can be resourceful, and asking the question in an open way and letting it sit. I think in that victim role, it takes a little bit of time of just letting things percolate for a minute and letting the ideas come up to the surface. And then the third question is, what creative solutions can I experiment with? And we worded this as the word experiment because, again, the victim role feels very powerless. Like I can't create the solution. The victim mind is always going to the end result, the final outcome, and seeing this huge gap between where they are and what the outcome is that they want. The victim just wants $1 million to fall in their lap. Right? Like, just give me $1 million and I'll be fine. But what if there are creative solutions that you can play around with? So it doesn't have that charged emotion, those charged emotions around. It's like, what can I try? And if it fails, then it's fine. How can I just do something no matter what the outcome is? And then of course, there are plenty of other questions that can prompt a victim to think creatively, to see possibility. But creative solutions, where are things working? Where can I be resourceful? How can I meet my own needs are really useful for the victim. The victim tends to have a little bit of like a childish attitude about it. And so the adult responsibility of meeting their own needs can be helpful in saying, hey, you're kind of not a kid. And yes, you could use some support in meeting these needs, but where are you meeting your own needs? Where could you meet your own needs a little bit better?
This was one of my favorites. I found myself as a solopreneur definitely feeling in a victim mode when it came to my kids, because I've got 5 kids. And sometimes it can be a bit much to try to work from home and take care of kids. We're at a place where many of our kids are old enough, they're grown, they're out of the house. But there was a summer, 2 summers ago almost, where I had my daughter at home. My daughter has autism, and my stepdaughter was coming for the summer, and she prefers the company of adults as opposed to kids. And so even though these girls are both about the same age, they're only 5 months apart, they somehow cannot entertain each other. I'm like, I just want to be able to work, but they needed some entertainment. And so I found myself like in that victim role of, oh gosh, I'm not going to be able to work. How am I going to do this? Because I need to keep my business going. I need to make money, like all of the things. And I was like, okay, wait a minute. How can I switch into a creator role? How can I experiment and have fun? And how can I help develop the growth mindset in both of these girls? So being that I helped to develop entrepreneurs, I was like, well, guess what? I'm going to develop these girls into entrepreneurs this summer. And so my daughter loves to bake. My stepdaughter loves to make slime. So out here on the California coast, we have vendor booths that get set up on Saturdays right next to the ocean, where you can bring your stuff out, whatever it is, and sell it. And so I thought, okay, how can we be 3 female entrepreneurs and go out there and make some money? And so I helped them to develop the idea of their businesses, all of the finances part of it, the investment, the creating the things. And then we went out there as 3 female entrepreneurs, and we didn't have anything like super fancy. It was just a folding table, and we put a paper tablecloth over it. And my daughter's there selling her baked goods. My stepdaughter's selling her slime. And I've got a sign that just says "Got stress." And so people are coming by, and I didn't realize that my stepdaughter would end up being my wing woman. So we started the conversations around like the food and the slime being really great for stress relief. And so there was one woman that came up and we started that conversation. And she was like, "Oh my gosh, I need that for stress. Things at work are just so bad." And I was like, ding, 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 ding. So I ended up signing a client from my daughter or my stepdaughter selling her slime, and also had the added benefit of teaching both of my daughters how to start conversations with strangers, which both of them are shy, but especially for my daughter with autism, like this is a big life skill for her to develop. And so she got to develop how to talk to strangers, how to understand their pain points, their problems, any solutions that they've tried, and how their product was the best solution for them. So it was a lot of fun, and we all made sales that day, which was amazing. So now how do we switch from rescuer to coach? And I think this is where I spend the most amount of my time with the people that I work with. All of us have huge hearts and we want to help people, but we tend to feel overly responsible and we do way more than what we should. And what we don't realize is that when we jump in and we rescue other people from their responsibilities or their tasks, that we're inadvertently switching them over into a fixed mindset. And so a fixed mindset is where we're having those thoughts of, I can't do this on my own. And that keeps us stuck in that victim role. Well, being a rescuer and trying to be a really good person, we're trying to help them escape from their emotions. But Sarah, you're so funny. Stop calling me out. But when we jump in and we're trying to help them so that they feel better, we're actually reinforcing those thoughts that they're not able to do these things and that they need other people to do it for them. So that's how we accidentally keep the drama going, even though we're really good people. So switching over into a coach role, we have to spend a lot of time really examining our thoughts and our motives behind doing things. And a lot of it is all of those belief systems that we have about being a good person. We're really going to have to challenge those because we may accidentally be causing harm. We didn't know that, and that was never our intent. So first shift is checking our motive of, why am I really doing this? Am I doing it because I want to feel like a good person? Am I doing it because I'm trying to rescue this person from their feelings so they don't feel bad? That might work in the moment, but the long term, they're still not going to be able to do that thing. But when they can be developed so they can do that thing, they're going to feel great for a lifetime. So checking our motive, why are we really doing this? Whose responsibility is it anyway? So the task itself, is it my responsibility? Is it theirs? The knowledge, is it my responsibility to learn this stuff for them and condense it? Or is it their responsibility to learn it? All right. So, and then am I the appropriate helper? Because sometimes, because we've got these huge hearts, we want to help people with anything and everything. Sometimes we're really not the appropriate helper. And especially in the coaching field, sometimes a person needs a therapist as opposed to a coach. So the way that we can be appropriate in our help at that point is sharing the resources of who is the appropriate helper for them. And then how can I see that other person as actually empowered? So we may think, oh, well, they can't do this. Well, with a growth mindset, one of the best words we can always throw in there is the word yet, called the power of yet. We may look at that person and think, oh, well, they don't know how to do that yet. They don't know how to deal with their emotions yet, right? I want them to feel better. Well, they can, just not yet. because they have to go through this first. It's part of their growing. And how can I detach from the outcome? And that's really hard because we want to see people be successful. And sometimes we know exactly how to have that success. So it's like, well, we could just jump in and do this for them. No, they need to be able to learn how to do this on their own. And one of the best stories that helped me, because I had such a hard time with this, was the story of the butterfly. And so this is one where the butterfly, as it's growing in its chrysalis, in order to come out, it has to drill like a little hole in that cocoon and then come through. And it's struggling really hard. And so in this story, a very nice person with a big heart came by, saw this butterfly trying to come out of this chrysalis and struggling, didn't want the butterfly to struggle. So being the good person, pulls out the little pocket knife, carefully cuts open the chrysalis so the butterfly can come out, right? Like that's the good thing to do. Problem is that the butterfly came out and its wings were still wet and crumpled. Its body that used to be a caterpillar hadn't quite thinned out and become strong enough, like a butterfly's body, and its legs were not strong enough. What happened is that the butterfly passed away within 24 hours. It didn't have the strength and the skills to be able to survive on its own. So although that person thought they were doing the right thing, in retrospect, they realized that they actually did harm. So there are people that they need to struggle because that's how they become strong. That's how they become capable of doing things in the world so that they can fly forever. And that's what we really want for these people. And so although we may want a specific outcome for them, and we might have a quality of outcome idea for them, we might have a time frame idea for them, it's not for us to decide that. That's for them to decide, and that we're there to support them as they're developing their skill set to do that. And that's where experimentation comes in, is that as coaches, we can help them to design their experiments. We can be there cheering them on as they're doing the experiments. And at the end, help them to do lessons learned on, okay, so what did you learn from that? And what worked, what didn't work, and what would you try next time? And that is how we're going to empower them so that they have the capability for a lifetime.
Yeah, on the rescuer part of it, this is a big one. It's interesting that this is sort of like a hidden role in the dating world. So most people, when you see women who are dating, you tend to think that they are acting like victims, like they're saying the dating apps are terrible and everything's terrible. But actually what most women are doing on the dating apps is being rescuers. And that's actually what creates the drama triangle where they end up appearing like victims when they complain about what's happening on the dating apps. What from the inside as a coach helping so many of these women, what I see is they're on the apps and they're having these experiences and having these conversations, and they tend, just like as women, as we've been socialized, to want to rescue men from the appropriate emotion that they're going to feel if the woman says no, if the woman says we're not a fit. I've had clients go on dates where, this is recent, this is in the last month, the man literally, like they were in one of these like circular booths, scooted over to her side. He'd been telling her about how he lost his job, blah, blah, blah. Scooted over to her side, put his head on her shoulder and said, "Help me, coach," because she's a coach as well. And she was like, what is happening? And so she'd been giving off rescuer vibes, so to speak, in her interactions with this man. And so he was like ready to be rescued. And so a lot of this rescuing dynamics come up in toxic relationships, difficult marriages, the dating world. Another example is a woman that I coached whose husband at the time, and she was wanting to leave, threatened to harm himself if she did. And this brings it back to question number 2, where, you know, the appropriate question was like, whose responsibility is this? And am I the appropriate helper? If he's having thoughts of harming himself, is the appropriate solution for me to stay, or is the appropriate solution for him to have professional help? So this is the dynamic that I see in the dating world more so than the others, even though verbally, when people are talking about it, you hear more about the villain and the victim, but what's really happening is the rescuer. They're running rampant on the dating apps. All right, I think that's what we have.
Absolutely. And there's actually, you know what resonated with me a lot with that, I just want to share. I tended to be a rescuer even when I was dating. And there would be guys that would have all of the red flags, but I'd feel so bad for them that they were not the person of choice for most people. And so I would date them anyway. And oh, yeah. No
Yeah,
bueno. No
teaching them
bueno.
how to date. There's the one where people teach them. They want to teach them. Well, oh, he just didn't know, so I'm going to tell him how to do this right.
Oh gosh.
All right.
So
Well,
we
we want to
wanna-
invite you to with questions in the chat if you have any. And then I think, Gretchen, we will have things in the Facebook group. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah. So I have been interested in hiring. Yes. The person was an underdog. They needed a chance. Oh my gosh. Jen, that one comes up so many times. So many people that I start coaching as they're creating their businesses, they want to give other people a chance, a development opportunity, and they will hire them. And being the good people that they are, they want to make sure that they're like giving really good compensation packages. What happens though is that the employer is on the hook paying a lot of money for someone that really needed to have a training role and an amount that covered training, like not the full blown salary. And so then the entrepreneur kind of gets into this catch-22 is that they're not only doing their own work, they're compensating for the employee and spending all this extra time developing and paying a high salary. And then they're faced with the, oh, okay, I just shot myself in the foot. And so one of the things that tends to work better is to decide ahead of time that in the beginning, you're going to make sure that you hire qualified people and that there will be a time in your business where there is enough bandwidth to take on those people that you want to develop. But in the very beginning, it's too big of an ask. So just something to consider. We do have some resources that we're going to share. And so one of the things that I do is I have a process called the Clarity Steps, which is a 7-step process for how to achieve any goal. And the great thing about this is I designed it specifically so that it sends you through all of the 3 roles of the empowerment triangle. It starts off with the vision. So it puts you in the visionary seat. And then it has you asking appropriate questions of yourself. And so that puts you into the coach role of being a coach for yourself. And then it's all about experiments and designing experiments and understanding your own requirements and getting out and doing it. And so that puts you into that creator role. And so I will drop a link in the comments for how you can sign up for a free guide that's going to teach you the clarity steps and give you the framework behind it. And also by signing up for it, you'll receive an invitation to come to a free training this coming Friday, where I'll go over everything in the clarity steps and how not only can it help you achieve your goals, but it can help you to design your products and services, come up with your marketing material, how to be able to get consultations, how to be able to even sell your products and services.
Right. And on my website, if you go to www.shadecurry.com, and Shade is just SADECURRY, for whoever is listening to this later without the video. There's no H in my name. I have a freebie that I share with women who are dating, which is the 50 green flags of a healthy relationship. And that's developed really to help women orient, especially divorced women, orient towards what does a good man look like. So many divorced women have just experienced so much negativity. And of course, when you're coming out of a divorce, you want to know what all the red flags are so that you never make a mistake again. However, what's actually useful is knowing what the green flags are, knowing what a good man looks like, knowing what a healthy relationship looks like. And so if you go to my website, or if you go to my podcast, it's also in the show notes in my podcast, which is just search for Dating After Divorce with Shade Curry. You have links where you can just click and join my email list and get a copy of the 50 green flags. And if you are dating after a divorce, I'm going to invite you to listen to my podcast. It is, I don't know if it's the only place on the internet to learn about dating after a divorce, but I think it's the best place on the internet to learn the ins and outs of dating after divorce. And there are just so many stories available to inspire your journey, and to teach you really step by step how to go about creating the relationship you want after divorce.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
And Robin, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share this really important tool set.
Thank you, Robin.
Excellent. All right. Amazing. Thank you so much. That was amazing. You know, the word that just kept coming up in my brain as we've been going through this whole day today is permission. Right? Permission to let go of the things that we're, right, trying to carry for other people, permission to stop being a rescuer, right? Permission to allow ourselves to celebrate, like even on hard days, permission to allow ourselves to let go of the perfectionism, right? And the being, it's like, I think I just kept hearing that word through everything is just permission. Like when I give myself permission to let go of all of that and permission to allow myself to like, I really think that is such a beautiful, I feel that in my own energy, right? Like you just sort of feel your energy coming back. And I was listening to someone talk about that recently about gathering up your energy. And I think, you know, the way that Kristen said that, all the fucks that we give away and all the places that we like, all the places that we give and put our energy into other people. And, you know, even like Jen was talking about with, you know, it's like, how much energy does it take to meet someone at their vibrational level? And you can feel yourself wanting to celebrate. You can feel yourself wanting to have joy for things, for wins that you're having. And yet you're keeping yourself, you know, in the box, that ceiling low. And it's like all that energy just wanting to come out. And I think when we give ourselves permission, that word just kept coming up for myself. Am I willing to give myself permission? Permission to become who I want to be, permission to like move and soar. And have you guys heard about the tall poppy syndrome, right? And it's like permission to grow instead of keeping on cutting myself down. And this whole weekend, I just wanted to take a second as we wrap up and first of all just say thank you so much to everyone for coming and for being a part of this. This has been really just so amazing and I think so healing. You know, I've experienced a lot of my own just healing and encouragement through this, which was the whole point. And I think, you know, a lot of you have as well that I've talked to. And like Jen said, I think really that credit goes to everyone that was willing to show up and just be vulnerable. And that vulnerability is so powerful. It's such a form of connection, right? That we experience. Sarah was saying this yesterday, like it just feels like a family now, right? Like truly, like that I didn't expect. The relationships that I have cultivated and grown. I mean, you guys feel, I mean, truly, like I was just one of the things that I have been working on manifesting in my life has been those kinds of friendships and connection. And someone wrote me a message the other day and they were saying, Robin, you just create community wherever you go. It's just been so amazing to watch. And it just felt like such a cognitive dissonance for me because I have spent my whole life feeling the opposite. Like I'm the one that never has that. Like I just, right? Have you ever felt that way? It's like that shit, just like when we talked about in the beginning, like that stuff from being a little kid. It's crazy how that sticks around, right? That programming, that narrative that like, I don't know how to make friends. I don't know how to create, you know, connection like that. I'm just, and that isolation. And it's just it's been so amazing to see as I've given myself permission, even to do this summit, right? It's like, it felt kind of scary. And to see what comes out of that. And the reason I mention it is because as we come into this closing space, I want to invite each of you to really allow yourself to explore that. What is the permission I want to give myself in my life? Like, what's the reason that you came into this? What made you want to sign up? Maybe you just love Jen or Sarah or Sade or, you know, right? Maybe you just had your favorite person and you're like, ooh, I want to see what they're doing. And that's fine, right? Noticing that. Is there something there? What is the thing that you want in your life most deeply? And maybe part of that has to do with building connection and relationship. Maybe there's something that you wanted to learn. But when you think about that, like, what is the thing that you most deeply want in your life? And are you willing to consider spending a little more time each day, each week, being intentional about connecting to that desire? How much time, how often do we just kind of put it on a shelf, right? And say, well, I've got kids, I've got all these responsibilities, I've got all these other people I need to take care of. And how often do we end up coming last? And what would it be like to just spend some time realizing that that thing that's inside your heart that you want for your business, for your marriage, for your kids, whatever it is, maybe it's for your body, what would it feel like to honor that and to really give it a place of prominence in your life, to make that a priority, to make you a priority, and to realize that your dream matters, your desire, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. Whatever that dream is, whatever that desire is that you have for your life, it's there for a reason. It's there for a reason. And I believe that it matters so deeply. And so my invitation to you would be to spend some time connecting to that desire. Let yourself really explore, what is it that my heart is wanting right now? And you might surprise yourself. Right? One of the things when we talked about joy was, is it your definition? How many things do you think you want because you've been telling yourself that's your goal? Oh, got to make my 100K. That's my goal. That's my dream. That's my desire. What if it's not? What if you let go of all of it? What if that's just something that you took on from society, but that's what all the other coaches are doing? So isn't that what it means to be successful? What's your definition of success? What's your definition of joy? And when you allow yourself to connect to that and to experience joy, and like Jen said, allowing yourself to celebrate, how much energy do you feel? How much momentum would you begin to gain in your life, getting closer each and every day to that dream? How much faster would your dream come true if you could celebrate and enjoy and give yourself permission to let go of anything that's not yours and to just truly own, who do I want to be in the world? And am I willing to spend some time really connecting to that version of myself, that true identity, that this is who I want to be? Doing this Shadow Side Leadership Summit, this was something I wanted to do. And there were people that told me it was a bad idea. And I'm just so fucking glad that I didn't listen, because this has been epic, so intimate and healing and powerful, not just for me, but for other people. I'm just so glad that I listened, that I spent that time connecting to my truth, to my joy, because this has been a true joy for me. And then before we hop off, I just wanted to play something for you. This is it's a recording that's actually on my website, and it's from a client session that I did. But I want you to ignore all that for a minute and just allow yourself to feel the emotion of what can happen when you let yourself explore really finding your own power, because that's what all this is about, right? Really empowering us to become that version of who we want to be. And I think this is an invitation that I just wanted to offer you as you listen kind of through this moment for her. I want to invite you to notice what would that be like for me? What might be that next door? Who had some doors busted open this week? Who had some obstacles, some blocks, right? How does that feel? What if you could have another one and keep going, right? Like that's what I want to inspire each of you to never stop signing up for those experiences, because you just never know where that next one is going to be waiting. I had no idea what was waiting for me inside the summit. You guys want to hear it? Does that sound okay? Permission to play that for you really quick? I wasn't planning on this, but as they were talking, I just wanted to share this. This is what I have for you.
God, I love you. Thank you. Wow. Fuck balls. How did I never know that? That's it. Right there. That's the moment. That's my control. That's my button. That's my switch. That's my power.
That's your power, baby.
That's my power. Fuck.
That's your power.
Okay. Okay. Robin. Jesus. That's it.
Yeah.
have you been my whole life? Oh, wait, right here. Why do you do this?
Right, sweetie. Yeah.
Right here.
This is all you
Seriously.
showing up for this work and showing up for yourself. You are so powerful. So, would you like to do this again?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is that fun to hear? Where are my coaches in the room? Where are my coaches at? Why do we do this work? That's it, isn't it? How does it feel when you have a client that has that moment? It's amazing. And I think just those little reminders along the way, because I think we all get so discouraged sometimes, and we have our shadow sides, right? That's what this has all been about. And sometimes our shadow sides get in the way of that. That's what our shadow sides get in the way of if we let them. And my whole dream with all of this is to just help you to remember that you're so fucking beautiful. I'm a disaster. But look, just because I showed up and gave what I had to get, offered what I had, look what can happen. This is amazing. This whole weekend has been amazing. And I have been filled with self-doubt the whole way. So don't let yourself get in your own way. That's all I have.
Robin, thank you so much for putting this event together, for carrying on through the self-doubt, and for just showing up and being vulnerable and being open and creating this space and being the person who's in it with us, as well as the person who brought it all together. This was absolutely magical. And I hope that you fold that into the things that you know about yourself after this experience, because you did a good fucking job, babe. And we are all so grateful that you did, even though there was doubt and fear and all of it.
All the stuff.
You're
Thank you,
incredible.
Kristen. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you all. And we will post this inside the Facebook group, and we are all here for you. If you guys want to coach with any of us, if you want some freebies, there's so much shit in there. You guys know how to find us. We love you. And keep an eye out in the Facebook group, because we've got lots more events coming. This is not a one and done. So we're going to take you on a ride this year. And also in that vein, let me know if there's anything else that you guys would like to learn or talk about, right? Let me know, shoot me an email. I would love to hear what your favorite parts were about the summit. What did you like? What worked? What did you love? What do you want more of? That would be really helpful. I would love to hear that. Or if there's something that you'd like to talk about, hey, someone touched on this topic. Can we have something over there? Because yeah, we're not done yet. So open to all that feedback.
I just dropped Robin's email in the chat. I also want to remind anyone who attended live on day 1 on Friday, the 19th, that if you want to claim your bonus free one-on-one session with Robin, you're going to want to grab that email address and email her before the end of the day today, so you guys can get that on the calendar. And that's also in your reminder and follow-up emails, but it's right here. So just grab it right now and send her the email so you can schedule that bonus session.
All right, my loves. I think that's all. Beautiful. Well done, my friends. Thank you.